Hello everyone and welcome to the show. Coming up this week, we discuss the Alan Wake and Sonic TV shows, as well as the new Bond film. We also discuss the very first Resident Evil movie, before we do a remake of our own and discuss the original Resident Evil game again, and its prequel, Resident Evil 0. We've got all that, and absolutely nothing else, on this week's Grand Pitch Thought So. Welcome to Grand Pitch Thought So, the video game to movie FANCAST podcast, with Dan, Brett, and Dave. This podcast will contain detailed plot points and spoilers about numerous video games and movies, both old and new, so listener discretion is advised. And don't forget to rate and review the podcast on iTunes, Podbean, or wherever you download your podcasts from. And feel free to get in touch with us on Instagram and Twitter at GPTSPod, and on Facebook at Grand Pitch Thought So. What's up everybody and welcome to episode 17 of Grand Pitch Thought So. I am your host Dan Hewitt, joined as always by returning to second place, Brett Amer.
Well, hey!
And always in third, David Hampson.
Is this because I shouted in the mic last week?
That's right.
Because I would like to formally apologise for that. I gave myself a fright of my life driving in my car listening to it.
I saw it coming.
It was
on the
mental.
thing and I still laughed when
What
it
was that
happened.
about?
If you're giving yourself a fright, think about anybody else who's
I know.
listening, man.
Well, I forgot I was going to do it.
We seem to be starting there now. We're already there. There's just the mushrooms have started again. Right. So I didn't think we had much news, but we do actually have quite a bit. So let's get into the housekeeping. Let's not waste too much time. Brett, you promised us some information after your less than stellar Spanish weekend.
Some games.
Yes, please.
In terms of games, I went. I didn't actually play loads of games, but I did. I give it some. I had a couple of hours. I went retro with it.
Oh boy.
Because on the games for
You wrote it
gold.
down?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know why.
What's happening to
It's
him?
because I've never played it before, and I didn't want to forget what it was called.
Okay.
Dear Diary, I played PlayStation 2 today.
I didn't want to forget what it was called, so I wrote it down. I only wrote it down today. It was just literally so I didn't have a brain fart at the time. But I was
What are you about to? Is that why you're consulting the list?
well, the second.
Oh, you're having a brain fart, Brett.
Not yet. It was on the Games for Gold, but it was like it's a really retro game. It was the Wonder Boy, the Monsterland series. It starts off at Monsterland and then it's Monster World.
I don't know this one.
No, I've
It's
never heard
it's
of it.
basically like Sega's version of Mario.
But it's
Sonic.
it's from like the 90s or something?
It's from the 80s, from like 88. It came out. It's like really old. It's a side-scrolling platformer.
Mm-hmm.
And like you go about and you collect, like you start off in just your underpants, and then you collect the sword, you collect
Like
your
Ghosts
shields.
and Ghouls.
Oh
I don't know.
yeah. That's the one I'm thinking of with the knight.
I'm
I
sure.
think you have armor, and then when you get
Oh, you
done,
lose, yeah.
all your armor
You
instantly
end
falls
up
off,
with
and you've got a
the
little
white
spotty
boxers.
underpants.
Well, I mean, like I said, it's Monsterland and it's Monster World and then Monster World 2.
Is it a side scroller? Is it?
It's Wonder Boy. Wonder Boy, sorry, is the guy who's in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if he's done other things as well as Monsterland. I don't know if it was a huge
I
series,
don't know, I have no idea.
but I've definitely seen it before, and I think you'd probably recognise it if you'd seen it as well.
I always thought Sonic was Sega's answer to Mario, but
Yeah,
I'm guessing they probably came out at the same time.
Sega, I think, was a little bit later actually. Sonic was a little bit later. Even sorry, because this you can tell this is like stupidly old. It's like it hasn't aged well at all, but it's still fun. And I tell you what, it's the hardest thing I've ever played in my life.
Yeah.
Until you go back to old retro games, you don't realise how hard they were.
A lot of them are. It's
It's
insane.
unbelievable.
I couldn't get through the second level. There's 3 different games in the series that you get with the Games for Gold, and I couldn't get through the second level of any of them. Each of them, the second level was the hardest thing. And I must have tried 15 times. I was on for about an hour each game, and I was like, yeah, it's enough for today.
It's so hard, isn't it? And it's like painful as well. I mean, I played Ghosts and Ghouls, funny enough. I played it in Barcade in New York. I told you about a few podcasts ago, and then I've got it on my DS because it was like 99 pence. I can't get past. It took us about 2 hours to do the first level.
Oh god.
And you can save it on it. You can save it at moments and come back to that. It's absolutely solid. I don't know how anyone ever played it.
I think of like a Crash Bandicoot, that remaster remake that came out.
Yeah.
I still haven't finished the first one. I think I've got like 3 levels left. I can't get past
The
this
bridge.
last-
I think
Yeah.
everyone
The
cracked
bridge.
themselves when it came back. Oh yeah, I'll play this again. It's just a fun little,
Yeah.
light-hearted game, and then then they started playing. It's like
Yeah.
Jesus.
Smash 2 and 3, I think they got wise to the fact that people, as obviously time went on, it was less about the levels and more about the fun things you could do with Crash.
Of course.
But I think it was very much like, isn't something like some sort of frog game is supposed to be Battletoads or something is the most difficult game that's ever been invented.
Oh, right.
And it's just like the Frogger game, like hopping over things and hopping back, getting backwards and forwards as fast as you can.
Right.
And it's like the most difficult game that's ever been invented.
But it's like a multiplayer game, is it? Or
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
No, but it's like it's like an Atari thing where all you've got is the joystick and a red button, and that's it.
Yes, I have heard
Yeah.
of this actually. This is that Wonder Boy Monsterland thing.
Oh, that
you
does.
must recognise
That looks a lot like. Someone must have got.
God, it does look like
someone
it,
must have got
doesn't it?
sued over that.
Which one's older though?
Oh, great question. So, moving on. Tune in next week for the answer.
What made you
I'll
play
have
that?
the answer for you next time. It was on Games for Gold. It's the new Games for
Just
Gold
free.
thing, but on the Xbox 360. And do you know how they have like the Xbox Arcade? It's supposed to be like part of that, but you got the 3 games as part of it. And like I did enjoy going back to the old games. It is nice to like go back to basics, but it was just so hard, man. It's like the start. It reminds us of Altered Beast was always just ridiculous.
I was going to say
yeah.
that, to be fair, like, that came out on the phone as well, and I thought, brilliant, I'll get that
Yeah.
as an app. And then, Jesus Christ, like,
But you get to a certain level and you get like a new creature and you think, oh, great, I'm going to spend some time with this new creature, and then you probably get about 30 seconds as the new creature before you die every time.
it's if you miss one of those power-ups, aren't they, and you don't get a big chest.
Like,
That's so funny, then, aren't they? Is there like 2 power-ups and then you become a monster, and every time you get a little bit more Arnold?
There's like a wolf, and then there's a dragon, and yeah.
What's next? A bear?
I don't know. Never got
I'm
that
sure
far.
it's a bear, but it's like one of these moves is a jump, and you like barrels into like a Kano ball.
Yeah.
And it's just the level's like so precision jumping for the first time, you fall off all the time. It's impossible.
It is. It's
And
so
I think it's a
hard.
tiger off that, but I never got further than the tiger.
The thing is what the controllers must like. They wouldn't have been up to scratch those days either. It must have been even harder.
It's a
back in the
D-pad.
day. Aye.
D-pad, the classic
D-pad
D-pad.
and what, 3 buttons on the Sega? Insane.
I can't even imagine what the Sega. Did the Sega controller, was it like a SNES one, or was it? Like
It was more similar to Xbox
I
One
was
now.
gonna say, I feel like
actually.
it had like handles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More so than the Nintendo ones did.
It's kind of a cross between a Nintendo and an Xbox controller, actually.
Yeah.
Wasn't
It wasn't until like, the N64 came out that you were like, what?
I mean, it was smaller because it didn't have as many buttons.
Yeah. Was it,
And it was quite flat.
original Nintendo ones that were like just like like a Dairy Lee Dunker.
It was like it was like Robin's eyepiece shape.
Robin's eyepiece shape.
I don't know who this person is.
Robin, Batman Robin.
Oh, right, okay.
Oh, you mean like the thing?
It was that shape though, wasn't it?
Really more specific with these things, man.
Oh, God. I couldn't. You were just Robin eyepiece, and then just brushing his eyes like a lunatic.
Robin's eyepiece, man.
What, you an idiot? I'm showing you.
Brian Cox.
I don't think I'm in the mood for this today.
Well, let's see.
Not in the right frame of mind at all.
Let's see if we can get you in a better mood. Why don't you talk about yourself for a bit?
Yeah.
Guess what I played? I played The Witcher 3 because we were talking about it all week last
Oh,
week.
really? So it got you in the mood.
It's brilliant. Like I don't even think we even need to talk about it because we're talking about it for hours. But it's perfect, man. I'm totally back in. I've got nothing else to play, so like we were saying last week, it's hard to jump back into. Nah, disagree entirely now. Like, it's brilliant. The story's amazing.
I think it would be like within like an hour you'd be in, but when you're like,
I think I'm quite close to the end without realising it.
Mm-hmm.
I pissed about on that Irish Viking island for a long time. Mm-hmm. Tying up all them loose ends, but
of course,
yeah.
Is that where the king guy is? The blood man.
No, he's
with the
in Velen.
Yeah,
It's the first place.
Oh, okay.
the wink.
Audible wink.
And I haven't really played much else because I've worked a lot this week. I played a little bit on my DS. I played Luigi's Mansion 2, which is topical because Luigi's Mansion 3 was announced this week.
I was going to say that
Topical.
Was it Nintendo's like their whatever their expo or something?
Yeah, they do like a one every few months now, don't they? Like I don't know how they release it, but I only ever see it on their YouTube channel.
I think they do.
I think it goes live on the internet at the same time.
Didn't they announce there's a load of Did they say there's a lot of old games now going to come over?
NES, yeah, the NES ones. And they've released those little NES Joy-Cons, which are a complete waste of money, like, but if you know, a bit nostalgic for it, you can get those little Joy-Cons that you can only use with the NES games because they've only got 2 buttons on or something.
I was going to say, I think the one thing that I was thinking of, every single Final Fantasy is going to go on to Nintendo, except Final Fantasy 8.
It's not on there, is it?
What's
I
those-
noticed that, man. But I thought I could play
wasn't it
7.
Nintendo, is it?
Everything's going there.
It's going on to it.
What, so they've got the license for
Yeah.
it, basically, because like Nintendo never actually had the license for 7 onwards, did it?
Final Fantasy is going to be
I
on
don't think they've got
every platform. It's going to be on Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo, except number 8.
Wow.
Something must be. There must be some sort of rights thing with number 8.
They're getting 7,
Yeah.
9, 10, and 10 2, and then some like sidey bollocks.
Like there's loads of things like called like Chrono Trigger, which I've never ever known what
And
they
some
are.
chocobo adventure thing
But,
in a dungeon. I might get 7 because I haven't played it, and then.
Oh, it's great.
Unbelievable.
It's going to be on that. Like,
Now I think I would rather play the old one than.
oh yeah, I would play 100% play both, absolutely, because it's not held back by how it looks. It plays
yeah,
magnificently.
absolutely.
It's not like you know, it's the best like turn-based game. Well, for me, it's
I
the
miss
best game
turn-based
ever.
kind of games anyway. I haven't played one since.
7's going to be loaded onto that the PlayStation Mini thing that's just coming out.
Oh yeah,
it's
so
gotta have
I didn't recognise many games from that.
It's got 20 games on. All I've seen, I haven't seen the full list, but it was Final Fantasy 7, Tekken 3.
Yeah.
Oh
Were
yeah,
all the
they've
top-
only
Other than
released
that,
like
was there a Gran Turismo on there?
I think so.
there's 20 games on it, but they've only said 4. I
Oh, are they?
it's,
Is that why?
it's, Ridge Racer, like the first one or the second one or something. Final Fantasy 7, Tekken 3, and Wild Arms.
Right. I was quite surprised they
classic
put Final
Wild
Fantasy
Arms.
7 on because, like, the obviously they did the mini SNES sort of, was it last year or the year before, and it was all like multiplayer focused games. So I was quite surprised they put Final Fantasy 7 on because it's not, you know, if people are going to sit there for hours and play Final Fantasy 7, surely most of them are already going to have it. People don't buy this little mini PlayStation so they can sit for hours and play.
It's also odd that they've done that because it's on the PS4 already.
Yeah.
It's not like it's you have to get your PlayStation 1 out. You can. It's on the PS3. It was on the PS4. If you had a PS2 of a certain age, it would play the PS1 game. So it's on your iPad and everything now. So it seems a bit.
There's
of an
something
odd one.
quite tempting about getting a tiny little PS1 though. isn't
Yeah,
there?
I think it's also focused on people who are like in their 40s now that don't have a next generation console.
That's true.
That that they want to have the retro
People
games.
who've like sort of
Yeah,
been
maybe.
maybe left behind, not interested in the newer stuff, the Call of Duties and whatnot, but still want to play that old stuff. It is £90, I believe.
Is
Really?
it?
I believe it's £80.
When I like just coincidence, I was looking on eBay the other day to see how much a classic PS1 cost. This is before I knew about the mini, and you can get one for a tenner. With a game bundle, so
Yeah.
I don't see the point in paying £90 for a
Plus
little
in,
stuff.
But would it work on your TV now? Can you do HDMI
Oh,
from it?
no, you'd have to get.
That's a good point.
It still uses. Was it? Is it the SCART, the red, the white, the yellow?
Yeah,
So you'd have to get some sort of adapter.
or fish out your old telly from the.
Or
With
fish
the
out, yeah.
VHS in the bottom.
Yeah.
Everyone had that. There's
There's one in my mum's house for sure. There's one VHS in the
There you go,
bottom.
he sorted me.
But there's no VHS player, unfortunately.
I don't think I would
That's a
play
shame.
many of these little retro kind of boxes that they're bringing out, but something about them makes us want to buy them. Even though I don't think
I know,
I'd get the
same.
money.
It's one of those
out
where
it,
you
get
want to
the money's
go.
worth, you know.
You'd go to like so if someone who you knew had it, you'd go and play it, but you wouldn't be like, oh, I want to go and buy one.
If I bought them all and you could put them all out on your little TV,
I think I'll get it for like
nice,
20
wouldn't
quid
it?
each because surely they don't cost much more than that, and like much less than that. Certainly.
And I would have thought that's where they'd end up eventually. Eventually, they'll just go down and down and down, and
yeah.
because they're always gonna either they're not gonna do enough, and then they'll do too many, or they'll just do too many in general, and then they'll just go down in price massively. They'll be in the sale and Debenhams and whatnot.
Debenhams.
Debenhams.
Is that where you go for your games now?
That's where I go for most of my games. Most of my gaming needs Debenhams.
Debenhams.
Even though I can't buy discs, I go there, I browse, and then I come home and I buy online.
I think my
John
I
Lewis.
think my disc drive's about to break. Like it nearly swallowed Full Metal Jacket last night.
You can just
All my games are discs as well. A lot of them. Like not all of them, but a lot of them. What if I don't finish The Witcher and then my disc drive breaks? I'll be absolutely devastated.
what if it pushes it out as if it's like it's out of a shredder, it's just like 10 pieces. There
Like
you
a
go.
Play-Doh barber shop.
I mean, can you get these things fixed easily? I mean,
80 quid.
80 quid.
right, okay.
Something like that.
Okay. Or treat yourself to a new one.
Well, I feel like I'm going to move to PlayStation after this.
Oh. I see.
Leave you behind, Brett. Yeah.
The fan community is rocked.
Nobody plays with me.
I do every so often.
I've actually had to uninstall Friday the 13th, which is the only game you play with us, because it was freaking out with an update.
Really?
And it said you need to free up 0 kilobytes of space.
Mine's doing that at the minute. I
can't get it to stop.
Yeah.
I actually deleted a game thinking maybe it could work.
Have you not just put it back on though?
I haven't done it yet, but I can do it. Yeah, I will.
Please.
You never come on though, so
that sounds like that'll be something that if you just check the internet, there's probably something about it. It must be a known issue if it's
happened to both.
Unless it's just like a northeast issue.
it's very annoying.
It's only happened to us too. Someone's got some kind of vendetta against me.
And what about films, boys?
What have you been playing? No,
I'm still on GTA 5.
GTA 5.
I still haven't got around to
How come we've got to play new games every week and you can just play on GTA 5 for like a month long?
I do all the podcast stuff.
Like what? Like come up with questions, what have you been doing this week?
All of the posts, all of the prep, all of the research. I've also got to go to work.
All of the playing on Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah. I'm desperately trying to beat it.
So films wise, I actually I watched the Iron Man trilogy over the last week.
Iron Man.
Yeah.
You said that weird. That was weird. Wasn't that weird?
Did it really? Because you said the Iron Man.
The Iron Man trilogy.
Iron Man.
I don't think it's called the Iron Man. I watched Iron Man trilogy.
One ticket for an Iron Man.
So I watched Iron Man 1, 2 and 3. Okay.
I enjoy.
And it was I actually really enjoyed it. I know people slate the third one quite a lot, man, but I thought it was great. I think it's better than the second one. I thought the second one's probably the weakest, but still quite good.
I believe that is probably the main thought
process.
Yeah. I mean, the funny thing about the third one is he's not Iron Man for like a solid hour of that movie.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the multiple Iron Man men. Mm-hmm. Iron Man? Would that be right? Iron Man. At the end is completely different as well. It's a bit weird to see like dozens and dozens of them. It's like it kind of takes away from the importance of the original one. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, there's loads of them now. How's important?
Yeah.
But I do love Ben Kingsley in that. Mm-hmm. I think he's absolutely great.
I honestly can't remember any of the third.
He's such a stupid character, but he does it so well. Yeah. I love Ben Kingsley for that because he is obviously a great actor, but he can also he doesn't mind doing stupid roles as well.
You don't remember Iron Man 3, so
no, I was just
don't talk
patiently listening.
You better not have a good opinion.
And apart from that, I've watched pretty much all of Better Call Saul from the start, and I've almost finished the last series.
You said you were just starting it again, or was it just the last series again, or something like that?
I started again from the start. Mm-hmm. I watched it like when it first came out, and then I lost interest for a bit. I don't know why, because it's absolutely brilliant. It's so good. I don't know if you've seen the latest series at all, but
I've only seen Breaking Bad. I didn't cross over to that.
Oh, it gets better and better. Honestly, I would definitely recommend watching it.
I'm not really watching anything that's suitable, because the only chances I've had to watch anything, I've been watching the documentary on Netflix about the Vietnam War, called The Vietnam War. It's 10 episodes long, 2 hours each.
Who is it? Is it a famous person doing it?
Ken Burn, maybe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I feel that rings a bell.
It's a brilliant documentary. I mean, if you're into documentaries, then definitely watch it, and you'll never ever need to know anything else about the Vietnam War ever again. Yeah. With that much.
I don't feel I need to know anything about the Vietnam War.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
I think there's a lot of stuff that we British people don't know about the Vietnam War.
Yeah,
it's one of the ones where I had like brief points that I knew. I didn't really know that much about it, and I heard the documentary was class, and now I'm a little bit hooked to it.
Don't forget, we've got probably got the American version of the Vietnam War.
Well, yeah, I was just
about this documentary has both sides.
Does it make America look pretty bad? Oh,
it doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah,
it's good. It does.
Yeah, is it an American documentary?
I assume so.
Right.
But then it's got a lot of stuff from the point of view of the South Vietnamese and the North Vietnamese and the Viet Cong and the Viet Minh soldiers and generals from their army, and then Marines and generals and politicians from America, journalists, photographers.
I'm not really anti-America or anything here, but I think I'd be more interested to hear that side of it, just because that's the side you never hear. It is the side from Vietnam's point of view.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, I was surprised when the documentary had that kind of interviews in. Because I'd never really seen anything like that. And he's also got one about World War II, which I'm going to chew on as well.
Is that the
So
one
expect nothing from me for about 4 weeks.
Film
Is that the one that's just called like World War II in colour or something like that?
No, not that one.
No, not that one.
That one does look good though. And also you watched Full Metal Jacket.
Well, yeah. I thought Jess had to watch something a bit more theatrical to keep her into the Vietnam kind of. She's like, another episode, Dave. It's 2 hours long. It's like, yes, sit down.
Yeah,
Strap
sit down.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Oh well.
I love that film. Great.
I've been away for 5 days, so
Oh yeah, well, exactly.
did a little bit of Vietnam and a little bit of The Witcher.
A little bit of Vietnam. I watched Transformers 1.
Oh yeah, I've seen it close to
and parts of 3. Just because I was wondering if what it was like 10 years later.
So you missed out 2.
Missed out 2. I know 2 is not very good, so
Yeah.
I don't need to go back to that. 1, it does kind of hold up.
Yeah.
It does kind of hold up that if you're willing just to be like, okay, some of the jokes aren't funny, and yes, everything's a stereotype, but it like the action does kind of hold up like pretty seamlessly, and like the CGI is still pretty like photorealistic.
I'm not surprised about it because that's the focus, isn't it? That was the focus of it.
It is, and again, it's another one of those ones where there's like there's half an hour that should cut out of it because they've got like all the stupid jokes, and there's, of course, you know, in classic Hollywood style, when they adapt something like Transformers, there's far too much emphasis put on the human characters, when in reality, we've come here to see the robots fight each other.
No one cares about Shia LaBeouf, really.
But at the same time, you can't just have just the robots, because then that would be a bit odd. But yeah, I think Transformers 1 really does kind of hold up.
I remember enjoying it when it first came out. I don't really like Michael Bay though, so
I can't stand Michael Bay, but I think it's probably on the better side of his films. That and Bad Boys 2.
I think I watched that in the second one. In the second one, the jokes and all that went ridiculous. Those 2 little robots.
Because the second one
they were ridiculous. And I was done after that. I didn't watch anymore.
Well, they blamed that was when they had the guild, the writers guild went on strike. So they were like, "This is the script we've got. We either make this film now or we delay everything." And obviously they're not like, "There's."
That's your answer, mate.
Well, you think so, but obviously Paramount money. If Paramount, well, yeah,
it's a lot of money.
Well, Paramount Studios might have already invested like 40 million into it. Plus, you never know if they delay it, and Michael Bay is like, "Well, I can't do it, but you're still going to pay me for my time. It's in my contract." So they might have to pay him 20 million to not film that film. And then all of a sudden they're like, "Well, hang on, we've spent 40 to 60 million dollars, and we're just going to do another draft of the script and come back to it in 6 months' time. So just film this."
Right.
How many is there now?
I think the last
4,
one was the 5th one. There's the 3 with Shia LaBeouf. There's one then there's 2 with Mark Wahlberg.
Right.
And the newest one was all about was like King Arthur was real, Merlin was real. Here's the proof: Merlin knew robots.
What?
King Arthur and was involved in Transformers.
Transformers 5 begins with King Arthur asking for Merlin's help to win a battle, and Merlin goes and asks.
Is Merlin a transformer?
No, Merlin knows the robot dinosaur, and that's the. Sorry, no.
He knows the robot dinosaur.
Not a robot dinosaur, a robot dragon.
Right. Okay.
And that's where like the whole the English.
There is dinosaurs, isn't there? There's robot dinosaurs. Is that a different one?
That's in the 4th one.
That's a different one.
They do turn up in the 5th one, but it acts like it's just like a pet. It's just like a giant, like it's like chewing cars and spitting them out. It's not really like a fighter. But in the 5th one, the 5th one was like it's really terrible. Like, and I love like bad films.
Yeah.
And it was just
It's
so
too
boring.
bad.
Like even at one point, Anthony Hopkins goes, "It's the Transformer that killed Hitler." And then just
that's
walks right on. He's just like walking past the table, just pointing at things like, "This did this. This did this. This is the one that killed Hitler." Now, Mark Wahlberg, come with me. I've got something else to show you. And it's like you're like, "Oh no!" Like,
Anthony, come on.
but you can just tell that like he was like every shot was a close up. He's definitely not wearing like any trousers. He's wearing like.
I think he did it on Skype.
Yeah, he's wearing. It's everything's green screen. He's in a hotel room. There's like a little like cart with his lunch just out of shot. Yeah, you could tell he's not interested.
Oh, don't do it, man. Don't sully your name. You're getting on. Don't
Yeah.
let the last couple of years be bad films, man. Leslie Nielsen did it, and it's such a shame.
But they all do it. John Malkovich,
Yeah.
Frances, is it McDormand?
Yeah, but
She's won an Oscar. Was she nominated for an Oscar and won an Oscar, or won 2 Oscars? She's doing Transformers. Shia LaBeouf was obviously a star to a degree, and then you've got John Turturro's been in there. You know, Ken Young at the height of his fame, he was in there.
I think Michael Bay just has undeserved pulling power.
Yeah, he's unbelievable at getting people to turn up in his films and be like, okay, so you guys will do all the stuff with the cartoons, and you guys will do all the acting, right? That's why I've hired you. You guys will do the acting. You'll be cartooning, and you guys will be acting, and go.
So like little animations.
And that's it, boys. Well, again, I thought we didn't have much to talk about, but we'll go on for another half an hour, as we always do, as we ought to do.
Is it always half an hour?
It's always 30 minutes.
Mate, I had nothing to tell you.
30 minutes news, and then an hour of
We'll
chat.
go off on tangents, that's why, isn't it?
Yeah, we do. We love it.
Still recording that, by the way.
I know, we're going to take a break. Don't do it! Don't you dare shout into that microphone.
I was just going to say it now.
Right. Let's move on to the news. We'll start where you left off last week with the news. So we've got something about the Alan Wake TV show.
Oh, yeah.
So we've got some quotes here.
Yeah.
So
I've got a little bit to say after the news.
I'm glad. So Sam Lake is definitely involved with the TV show. So his quote is, "The original game is the starting point, the seed which will grow into the bigger story which we will explore."
Just to Sam Lake is the guy who is Max Payne's face.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
What?
Yeah, so the original Max Payne model is based off of Sam Lake.
And he did Alan Wake.
Do you know he's got the stupid like going on his
Yeah, I
face and
remember you
stuff
telling me that. Is it the guy who did that as well?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Remedy Entertainment. And it's Contradiction Films producer Thomas Harlan was the one who convinced Lake that they should make the show. Alan Wake is basically Twilight Zone in a game. That was Sam's vision. We plan to work closely with him on this show. This is his baby. And apparently they said no for a very long time to do an adaptation. And then it was the pitch of, we're going to do it as a TV show, we're going to do it like this, and Twilight Zone.
Does that mean they are going to do it like you were saying in Monster every week? You'd hate that.
Well, it might
Was
not
that Alan
be...
Wake you were saying you'd hate that for?
Yeah.
Well, it's not like it does a... Well, it was a TV show format, but it wasn't like a Monster of a Week. It was kind of like...
Twilight Zone wasn't.
Well, Twilight Zone is like...
Different every time.
Is
Every
like
episode's
two or three stories, every episode totally different.
Yeah, but it's a completely different story altogether. They don't even have
this
the
is
same
like
characters.
a guy who's like living his life, and then every time it goes to nighttime, he enters the Twilight Zone himself, and he's being chased around by stuff. We'll have
that sounds like it might be a bit more like to it than that.
We'll have to visit Alan Wake soon, because I played. Obviously, it was an Xbox 360. I think I rented it, played it, beat it, never looked at it again. Never touched it again, never seen it again. So it would be interesting to go back and see just how. Because I've got good. I've got good memories, but not many.
At least they're striking while the iron's hot anyway. About 10 years after.
That's the one. Yeah. Well, I mean, it could have been 10 years that they've been hounding them. Please let me make this. Please let me make this. Please let me make this.
Of course.
The only thing I remember is you would shine the torch at someone, at whatever it was, and then eventually it would power up so much that it would like flash, and then you would shoot, and that's what would kill some enemy from the darkness, something like that.
I think I only ever played a demo of it, to be honest.
I bought it and I started it on the hardest difficulty, got halfway through, found out it was too hard, and then got huffed with it. Never went any further.
I love it.
I don't play anything on hard anymore. Well, until I've done it once. But it ruins the story if everything's absolutely solid.
Yeah, I always play things on medium.
First.
I just think it's easiest. Unless...
Well, it can really ruin the story if you.
I just feel like medium's probably how it's intended to be played.
Yeah, probably. You end up playing the mechanics of the game if too much, if it's hard.
Yeah.
You end up having to read what the AI are programmed to do and kind of
Or
work that rather than just kind of get into the
button
action
bashing
scene or
or
whatever.
something like that. Yeah.
Let's move on to... This was something small that wasn't really in the press, but I found it. So Michael B. Jordan apparently is attached to do the Rainbow Six movie, but it's not the Rainbow Six movie, it's a prequel. So remember John Clark from Rainbow Six, who's like the overhead,
Nah.
So the head guy of Rainbow Six is called John Clark, and this is going to be a story about him in the Marines, and then it would end with him becoming the lead of the task force Rainbow Six, and then the sequel would be the
Are the
Rainbow
characters
Six
in the
film.
Rainbow Six games the same characters throughout?
Yeah,
the series?
Same characters from the books and everything.
So the ones in Rainbow Six Siege have all got all these different characters. Are they anything to do with it?
Siege, I'm not sure, but the Rainbow Six games, those original ones from the 90s...
Vegas is linked to the old one I played in the Dreamcast?
Possibly, I would have thought so, yes.
Is it all like canon as well? Does it all fit in?
I don't know if it does, to be honest with you, because I'm not even fully sure how many Rainbow Six books there's been.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's just the one book and then he's just went, I do whatever you want with the games. If that is the case, then I guess it would be canon, because if there's only one book, then obviously they've got a free for all.
Yeah.
But I really love the Rainbow Six book. I really love the games, that the ones that I've played, I've thoroughly enjoyed. And I love, as we all know, I love Michael B. Jordan, so I think he's a great fit for it. Is that something? As I say, I know it's a prequel, but is that something that a nice? I know it's probably go up against like the Call of Duty movie as well and stuff like that. So is that anything that interests either of you at all, or
Why not?
I love it.
I like the Rainbow Six games. I don't know anything about that story, so it wouldn't have a kind of reflection for us, I suppose.
But I haven't seen that anyway. I was just going through IGN and I just spotted that just as a rogue story.
Yeah. I bet it would make a good film.
Well, it was supposed to be Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
Tom Hardy was going to be attached to it, and it was going to be the guy who's directed the last couple of Mission Impossibles. But now, obviously, he's not attached, and Tom Hardy's Sam Fisher.
Is he?
Yeah. So he's left that, but Splinter Cell is also Tom Clancy.
Is it in there somewhere?
Possibly. That would be great, wouldn't it? I would love that. If they do Rainbow
Tom
Six,
Clancy universe.
Splinter Cell. They're doing The Division. That's Tom Clancy. So...
Is that a book, that one then?
So it's okay.
Every game that's a Tom Clancy game, is that a book at some point?
I don't...
Or has he got his own kind
Not
of
always.
game
I think it's
franchise?
like it's set like in the world of Tom Clancy. It's
Right.
like a Tom Clancy universe.
Yeah, because I mean, there's been the Tom Clancy kind of range of games has been massive, hasn't it? Like there's been
mental.
loads over the years.
There's Hawks, that plane one that did.
Wasn't there one like a Command and Conquer one?
Probably.
There was a one on the Xbox 360 called End War, which you controlled with your voice. Do you remember that?
That might be the one I'm thinking.
It
of,
never
something
worked.
like- Oh, great.
You just sounded like an idiot. Your troops were going all over and getting shot. You have to speak like a robot to get it to work, and it never worked. Maybe it's just because I'm a Geordie, like.
It could be. So on the back of the PlayStation Classic, the rumor is now there's going to be a Nintendo 64 Classic.
I'm very interested in that.
So that is, and that's just based off of the fact that someone's found some sort of design or a patent or something for it.
It's been rumored for a while, that though, hasn't it?
Well,
Or has it just been wished for a while
well,
because they were doing these
Nintendo did it first with the
SNES and NES.
So it's
SNES and NES.
yeah. So I think it's so maybe the
Imagine a
Dreamcast,
little GameCube as well, mate.
Dreamcast might come back.
What would be your best 64 games? WWE No Mercy. Obviously.
I don't know. The one I remember really playing on the N64, which I'm sure wasn't good, but it was the one I played the most, was Turok.
Yeah. I thought it was
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
I don't know why I like that so much, but it was brilliant.
Yeah, I don't know if it'd be fondly remembered, but
Yeah.
it's I remember playing that the most, and then obviously Mario Kart is obviously the
GoldenEye.
go-to,
Mario 64.
and then GoldenEye. Yes.
Mario 64 was the thing I remember the most from the Nintendo 64.
Oh yeah, Mario 64. Yeah.
Pokemon Snap. Remember that one?
I hated that.
Absolutely classic.
So boring.
Wasn't that the one where
It
you
was brilliant.
were you just like on like a little train and you were just like
Taking photos of Pokemon, yeah?
click.
Throwing apples at a Charmander, I throw it in the lava. I loved it, maybe.
I'm surprised they haven't done something like that again.
There was a volcano level where you could do that, and there was a little Charmander at the beginning. You threw an apple at him, he fell in the lava, disappeared, and then later on, Charmeleon would come out, and then you throw an apple at him, knock him in the lava, and then at the end, it's quite hard to do.
Oh yeah.
Then he'd evolve into a Charizard, and that's how you took a photo of a Charizard.
So the Pokemon, do they
Apples,
eat apples?
mate?
Do they eat apples? Or?
No, it knocks them into the lava, and then something happens in there. Like
Why
they get a bit in.
apples?
Is it all you had, mate? You had
Apples
like
and pepper?
5 different items. I can't remember what they all did.
Stones would be, more.
Yeah, but no one gave us stones. I think you could use the apple as bait. If you threw it in a certain place, then they would come out of
It
bushes
would
and things.
yeah.
But if you threw it directly at the Pokemon's head,
okay.
then sometimes something would happen.
Alright, I get it.
Like there was a Magikarp that was really hard to hit, and if you knocked it down, then later on a Gyarados comes out of the waterfall.
Oh, God.
Brilliant.
It was brilliant. Don't look at us like that.
You know, to be fair, and then so again, not really video game movie news, but they are movies that have had video games, and therefore they are applicable to us as far as I'm concerned. Bond, and I'm gonna guess I'm gonna get this name wrong, but it's Kerry Georgie Fukunaga is the director of the next Bond, who did the first series of True Detective.
What did he?
That's probably what I know him most for. He was also attached to do the Flash movie for the longest time, but then it fell apart not soon after Batman v Superman, I think. So, any guys, either of you is interested? Obviously, probably fans of Bond, but does a kind of another kind of thespian hardcore into cinematography style like Sam Mendes director interest you?
I did see this.
A little bit exciting. I did like the first season of True Detective.
Yeah.
But then you compare it to Sam Mendes, I thought Skyfall was amazing, but what was the one? It was awful.
Yeah.
And I had such high hopes for it. But maybe that's why. Maybe I didn't have any have hopes at all for Skyfall. I wasn't that bothered.
Well, I take my dad to see the James Bond films, and the only one that I don't remember him ever mentioning is Spectre. Ever. I think.
Why, you didn't say anything?
I think we
drove home in
I was
silence.
like, well,
Did you enjoy that?
Pretty good McDonald's. But he loved Casino Royale. I don't think he cared much for Quantum of Solace, but no one does.
No.
And then I think he loved Skyfall. But again, we're talking about a man who falls asleep during Jaws, Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones.
Falls asleep
every time. Somehow being in a darkened cinema, it keeps him awake.
What is it about dads and James Bond like?
Oh, it's just it's got to be like British dads.
We'll make a killing on Father's Day, James Bond. Everything's Bond related.
No. Christmas Day, about 3:00, ITV 4. Oh, on Emergency Secret Service on. Wonderful. Bit of a Lazenby. But yeah, I'm excited again. It's good. It's good. I know, obviously, thespian kind of heavy directors haven't always worked. As I say, Quantum Solace was a real misfire.
Yeah,
but
then
was
so boring.
But then Sam Mendes was also another odd choice, and he absolutely nailed it. But then failed either miserably or somewhat, depending on your opinion. Inspector.
I wouldn't have said it was awful, but it wasn't Casino Royale and it wasn't Skyfall.
Yeah, I think Casino for me
it was a bit cheesier than Skyfall, wasn't it? He'd created a Sam Mendes kind of film in Skyfall, and then thought, well, for the next one, let's just make it a bit more Bondy. And I just thought,
yeah.
I mean, Skyfall looks better than Casino Royale, but I still think Casino Royale is the best Bond.
Yeah.
Maybe based off of nostalgia, I'd probably say maybe GoldenEye is my favourite. But again, you can't.
But you still think that Casino Royale is
Die Another Day?
I would say Casino Royale is the best one.
Die Another Day.
Remember Die Another Day when he pulls up at the Ice Palace and he goes...
The Ice Palace?
Yeah, Ice Palace. And he gets out of the car and the guy doesn't even say hello to anyone. This guy just walks up to him and goes, "My name is Mr. Kill." And he goes, "Oh, that's the name to die for," and just walks away. Well, are you taking my car? Are you the maitre d'? What's going on here?
Who are you? Delivers the line as well, by the way. Well, that's the name to die for.
Well, that's the name to die for. And just he kind of his body moves and his head just slowly follows. gives him just a proper side eye. It's like, oh no, Christ.
I think I kind of like them if the Skyfall or completely over the top like Die Another Day, and then I'm in. Anywhere in between, I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
Just commit.
Yeah, definitely.
What you mean, when he's when he starts Die Another Day by surfing into North Korea?
That is crazy, right?
Oh, it's when he's on that.
Using a surfboard as an actual vehicle.
Yeah, I believe.
But when he blows up, when he blows up that briefcase full of diamonds and makes that diamond-faced villain, though, he looks pretty good. And then he escapes on a hoverboat, jumps on, grabs onto a bell, and then says "Saved by the Bell."
Yes,
amazing.
Yeah, but he says that to himself. He looks straight at the camera,
and then I'm sure he gets captured anyway, straight away like that.
And then Madonna sings over him being tortured for 3 years or something.
I bought that single when I was a small boy.
Oh no.
Still like it.
I think even as a small boy, you should be ashamed of yourself.
I think I was into any music then. I think I bought that and maybe Eiffel 65. That was probably it.
Which song by Eiffel?
Lose Your Body, obviously.
So getting close to the end here. Space Jam 2.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I did see
Michael
that.
Jordan.
Yeah. No, but
LeBron James.
LeBron James, yeah.
And the director of Black Panther is on board as a producer.
Oh, yeah.
I forget who's directing it. But
Bill
yeah.
Murray.
Yeah, that's right. But it's they had a thing. It was a still, and it was the jerseys. And it was Bugs Bunny, LeBron James, and Ryan Coogler, and then the director.
Is it the aliens again? The monsters. The monsters.
I haven't got a clue.
I don't think
they were great.
I don't think anyone knows that much yet about it. I think it's just it's happening.
I love Space Jam.
But Michael
I haven't seen it in years, but
and Bill Murray must both make
I would have thought so. I would have thought. I think Bill Murray would be the kind of person who would be like, I definitely want a cameo in this, and I definitely want to talk about how much I don't want to do this movie.
And he's also really, really too old to play basketball now, surely.
Oh, they must force him to play basketball.
I mean, he wasn't very good back then.
Yeah.
And then, guys, I know that you're huge fans of it. Sonic the Hedgehog.
Wow. I thought we'd come to the end of this.
Yeah, we'll be talking about another 20 minutes about Sonic the Hedgehog. So the first one is that they're going to do Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon.
What?
They're doing a Sonic... What? I mean, you straight away.
That was a word, Dave.
Damn!
Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon. A cartoon TV show.
Oh, so they're making a film and a cartoon?
And a cartoon.
Give me a rest, man.
Yeah. Yeah, no one's heard from Sonic for about 15, 20 years, and now all of a sudden he's getting a film, a cartoon. So someone somewhere's got the rights to something. They're just going nuts.
I think they must think that he's due.
This is his time.
Yeah, it's due to be back in fashion somehow.
And that's it for news. You said you had something.
It's not really related. All more I think about it is just complete. It was actually just about Red Dead 2.
I'm excited.
They've just started. Well, that's essentially yes. They've just started letting people. Do you know when they let the reviewers and stuff like play for a little bit?
Oh yeah.
They're still way off giving us anything about it, but they're letting the reviewers play for like a couple of hours.
Yeah, 2 hours or so on IGN.
Yeah, and they're not allowed to show any pictures of it. Blah blah. They're restricted of what they can see, but they still came out with quite a few like really good details about it. Like you need to eat, otherwise you get skinny. You can get too fat if you eat too much. If you don't shave, you get a big beard. It's like really, the realism is like ramped right up on it.
Hopefully you don't like have to stay halfway through a mission and be like, oh, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Or I need to shave.
Chasing
beard, tripping on his beard.
I don't think, because obviously...
Oh, I wish I wasn't so fat!
Like a horse won't take any further than that.
Because both your horses, like the horse's legs just break. You climb on.
But I think, because they did that in San Andreas years ago as well, didn't they? But if you were in a mission, it didn't affect you. It was in between missions. So I think they'll probably keep it to between missions.
God, I hope so.
Whatever they're going to do, I
don't
trust
know how
them.
I feel about that.
I trust them, and I know that they'll do it the right way.
Yes.
Well, and Red Dead Online apparently starts mid-November.
Yes,
So
beta.
like 2 or 3 weeks after it's done.
Mm.
So yeah, the more I save it, the more I want it. The more I'll wonder, can I afford to get it?
Yeah. Well, that's all I'm getting basically for the next year. So
I'm buying anything.
Yeah.
I was thinking about getting Tomb Raider for Christmas probably,
Mm-hmm.
but I've seen something about it, about the difficulty levels. You can change the difficulty levels individually of different things. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I saw something about like I saw some people playing it, and apparently that you can do things where like you can remove like everything off the screen. So there's
because you know
way
like, games kind of spoon feed you now, don't they? Where you know exactly where to climb because they'll have like on Tomb Raider they had white paint on everything that you could climb. I think
that's right. Yeah.
So you can take all that kind of thing away, and you can take all the kind of like you can do sensors like Witcher sensors where you can see items that are of it can interact with. You can take all that kind of stuff away. But then you can keep the combat kind of normal if you wanted, if you were that way inclined, which has got us really interested because I like the kind of exploration, puzzling kind of things to do with Tomb Raider. Not so bothered about the combat. So if I can just keep my combat normal and then make everything else really hard and exploring really hard, I think I'd love that. And I've never heard a game do that before. Individual difficulty settings for different kinds of things.
I've only ever known like either like the HUD and that's it. I've never known like actual in-game stuff.
It's a good idea. I think. Especially for someone like that.
Great.
Wonderful. Is that it, boys?
I think so.
Well, let's get into some Resident Evil then.
Resident Evil.
It's very good.
It's kind of good, that. Very good. Very good.
Thank you.
Right, so we've got numerous Resident Evil games, obviously. And we're starting with 0 and Resident Evil 1. So, it's probably good that we'll match it up with a little chat about the Resident Evil movies at the same time. And I'm going to guess that we're going to get part way through this. We'll get an episode like Resident Evil 3 or 4, and you guys will go, I haven't seen that one. But
it might come sooner than you think, actually.
yeah. I'm guessing it's 1 and 2, and then people were already out.
Yeah.
But I remember Resident Evil 1. I remember that was 2002, and I remember being really excited for it, seeing a trailer, and then being totally unexcited for it.
Yeah,
And being
it's
like,
like,
I
that
don't
is not
recognise-
Resident Evil in the slightest.
And I think at the time, like, my least favourite, and probably still to this day, my least favourite part of Resident Evil is, like, the final parts where you end up in the lab. Because eventually in Resident Evil you always end up in, wherever it was, city or in Africa.
Yeah,
in
always
Africa,
goes
you
through
always
a lab.
eventually end up in an umbrella facility underneath something.
Yeah.
And that was my least favourite part. And then to find out that this was going to be pretty much all of the film. You know what? There's only about 5-10 minutes at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then to find out that like above beneath the house is not only a facility, but there's like offices with lifts and just like regular people who just happen to work underground.
Yeah.
Very, very disappointing. And obviously, you know, as you're older and you look back and you go and you see Paul W.S. Anderson and you see kind of everyone who's attached to it, and you go, well, I know what kind of film I'm getting here. But then when you were younger, not knowing all that kind of other stuff was so kind of brutally disappointing.
If we're talking about the most disappointing parts of Resident Evil,
Just the first movie.
Resident Evil the movie. It would be two things really. Actually, the fact that there's hardly any zombies in it at all. Really, it's very very little focus on zombies in the slightest. And then number two would be dodging lasers and that kind of nonsense.
Yeah, very
Well,
strange.
he didn't dodge them very well, did he?
No, he did not. He did not actually.
Yeah, that last guy missed it by what, a second from being turned into like some sort of like filleted shawarma or something.
Everyone else got a chance to dodge it at least, and then it turns into a net for this guy. Oh, it's not fair.
And they do call back that into another. I think the fifth or the sixth one. They go back to that, and they're like, "There's no way to win because eventually it would do this to you." But then it's like, well, what's the point in why don't you do that first?
Yeah.
Again, it's like all these decisions that they make, they're just like entirely just their cause.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of decisions are made at cause. Well, why hasn't this got more zombies in? Well, zombies cost money. All right, okay, well, we'll do lasers then. Well, surely the lasers cost money. Yeah, but cause.
It does look good.
And then they put all the effort. I think they put a lot of effort into those dogs.
Yeah.
When she karate kicked a dog. Then
That's my major problem with it.
Yeah.
What was that? What since? Oh,
What, the karate in general?
yeah, just all that acrobatic,
Very
flying, kicking dogs and zombies. That that wasn't
the most karate
in any of the games at that point when that film came out. None of that had happened.
The most fighting you want to see in it is a knife, just like that, just a jabbing with a knife.
I want standing still, an exact swipe constantly like that, one at a time.
I think we would have been talking at this point.
While the zombie walks towards you until you get
Sorry, we have knifed
knifed each other, mate.
At this point, when they were making it, they could only have been on Resident Evil 3.
Yeah.
Something like that.
No, maybe
Maybe
Code
4.
Veronica.
I reckon 4.
I don't think 4 came
No.
out because I think 4 didn't 4 have a laser bit in it,
Possibly.
and I think that came from the game.
So let's say we're at Code
The
Veronica.
film, sorry.
Code Veronica at best. So we're talking about tank controls. We're talking about like very little bullets. Like, you know, the pistol, the shotgun, a machine gun, a grenade launcher, an RPG that you get to use once.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, and they do kind of ramp it up. Like, yes, you usually start with the dogs, then you'll get to like a 1 or 2 zombie fights, then you'll get like to too many zombies that you can't fight and stuff like that. But then, like, even if you take the idea that they had the bare bones somewhat correct, every decision they could have made went wrong. Well, how do you fight a dog without a weapon? Her feet are the weapons. Nope, that's the wrong choice.
Yeah. If you don't have weapons, you run away from the dog.
That's right. And that's what Resident Evil was about. Resident Evil was about
Surviving. It was a survival horror game.
How many times did you open a door in Resident Evil and go, oh, no.
Slowly
Close
turn
that
around. Oh, shit.
It's survival horror, and she's not surviving. She's
know.
kicking ass.
They
basically.
turned a horror game into an action film for nobody wanted that. Nobody asked for that.
And then they started copying the films. And again, I'm sure they'll say no, they didn't, and I'm sure that there's all tit for tat. But I think it's very interesting that the films started not very much like the game at all, went even less like the game, and then the game started to become like the film.
And why did they even change the games though? Because 1, 2, and 3 were all very, very popular on the PS1. Then Code Veronica came out on the Dreamcast, and even if that was a bit of a flop, I mean, it came out on the Dreamcast. Even if that was a bit of a flop, it's one game for you to then change everything entirely and bring out 4.
I do think though it can sometimes be as simple as like, well, that one flopped, so people must be sick of tank controls. Or hang on, we've got some new technology, we can do it this way. Or people liked that. Okay, well, we'll do more of that, and then we'll do more of that. And then, well, if you go from doing as little as possible survival horror to doing as running, jumping, action scenes, big like the quick time events, button bashing, they were doing it bigger and bigger and bigger, trying to copy other games that were doing similar things. Yeah. But that's not what Resident Evil was. And I think it's taken to 6 for someone to say, no, we need to wipe the slate clean and start again. And then obviously they went in a radical different way with 7 going first person. But it'll be interesting to see what they do with 8, because obviously everyone loved 7 for being so scary. Will they keep it as first person? Will they go back to being?
I've got a feeling they will. If they're going to be remaking 2 as first person, I think that's just the direction they're going in from now on. I don't think they're going to go back to.
Well, the remake of 2 is not in first person.
It's not in first person. Oh, right, okay.
I wonder if 8, if new games will be in first person.
Oh, no,
and then they'll just remake the old games.
It's the same engine as 7, isn't it? That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, right, okay.
Because they could still remake 3. You could make the argument you could do Code Veronica, but once you get to 4, you're pretty much doing what the ones look like anyway.
I don't think that 3 wasn't half as popular as 2, really. It's not as iconic, so I'm not sure if they will.
Do you not think?
No, I mean 2 for me. I think. Then again, I maybe just think that because it was the first one I really played on properly, and that's why it sticks in my mind. For a lot of younger people, it might be 3 the first place.
At the end of the day, it's going to be...
No, I just think, well, a lot of people who I was hanging around with at the time, they were all absolutely buzzing for it when it came out.
It's going to be sales
because of 2.
If Resident Evil 2 remake smashes, they're going to do 3. If the Final Fantasy 7 remake smashes, they're going to discuss, well, should we do 8?
I think...
Well, maybe not 8, maybe 9. Seeing as they seem to hate 8 for some reason.
This remake looks pretty promising.
Oh, it does look great.
I think it looks great.
It looks quality, like.
And that's only January.
It looks kind of like 4, like... It has got that new control system, but it's very close quarters. You do feel like it looks like you can get overwhelmed, and in the trailers... Yeah. He's doing a lot of running away. He's not going, oh, Jesus.
And there's a lot of effort put into. There's no light. The light
looks scary as well, doesn't it? That looks really scary.
If that torch goes out, I'm going to presume they might add that in as a mechanic. You need to collect batteries for your torch or something like that. But even if they don't, if that isn't in, then you know that the minute Leon's like, uh-oh, you're like, something's coming. Something's coming because Leon's torch has gone off. And
that's in that Outlast, they use that battery thing in the torch.
Yes.
It's an absolute nightmare.
It really is. It's the hardest part of the game.
I hate it because I find out I'm constantly checking how many batteries I've got left in my little pack.
Is that the one that's also is like a camcorder thing?
Yeah. So you can do the night vision on the camcorder.
Yes, it's not really a torch. It's actually the light on the camcorder. Yeah.
Is that any good? Because I feel like
first one's good. Second one I thought was awful.
Because I've always seen it. It's always on sale for like $3 or $4.
First one's worth getting.
Definitely. Especially for £3.
It is really hard as well, though, isn't it? It's not.
Yeah, it's kind of like Alien Isolation.
Oh, okay.
You just got to hide and run. It's good though.
Yeah,
it's very atmospheric, pretty scary. Really. A couple of times I jumped up my skin, A little droppy in my pants.
But you're getting braver.
I played it at Andy's house once, and he told us to switch it off. So he was getting worried about it. He's getting scared.
Really, was he?
Because I think we'd had a few drinks and we're playing it in the dark, and he was like, "Can we switch this off now?"
He wasn't even playing it.
He was just watching me play it.
That's around about the hour mark. You have to tell him to listen for the shout out. And you belittle them. Actually, just a quick tangent. I guess you didn't see The Predator then?
No. Was a very quick tangent, that wasn't it?
Yeah, I didn't either.
Yeah. I've just heard, the more I've heard about it, the worse I've
really?
Yeah, it's getting some absolutely shocking reviews. Like.
It's getting slated.
I'll still watch it.
Well, why
maybe a Sky one. We know when it
go on then.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah, bye.
Go and watch it.
No clue. So Resident Evil, the movie, let's get back there. Anything else other than the fact that it was pretty terrible?
I tried really hard to like it when I was little. Just because I was that much of a...
so excited about it, man. Yeah.
And I bought the DVD, or my mum bought it for us probably, and I'd watched it hundreds of times going, it's good, isn't it? And it's just not good, is it?
It's not so, it's not good.
You know what it is? It's another one of those things where like they overcomplicate it massively with having the whole thing of like some guy, well, first putting amnesia in obviously doesn't help anything ever.
Yeah.
But then being like, oh, this guy's a good guy. Oh, actually, no, he's a bad guy. But why is he a bad guy? Because he wants to make money. Well, how's he going to make money by killing everyone? Well, maybe like this. You're like, well, stop that. Just make it simple. It was released by accident.
Yeah.
How difficult is that? Why have you got to include like a conspiracy? I know there is a conspiracy in Umbrella, but leave that for like Wesker. Don't leave it for like this no-name actor who doesn't even come back for any of the sequels. It just and then and I do remember the thing that I learned afterwards was that Mila Jovovich was supposed to be Jill Valentine.
Was she?
That was 100% supposed to happen, and there were scenes filmed where people called her Jill, and then I think they took that out with the idea of being
during filming. They got to that point and decided
they were in the edit and went, no, she's not Jill anymore.
She's nothing like
What?
Jill.
In the edit.
Yeah.
Because they didn't really say her name, did they?
No, they never really said her name, but there was scenes where people...
Alice, isn't it? Alice.
Yeah, so they turned it into Alice.
No way.
I think
Disgusting,
it was. I think it was really late in the game that, and I don't know.
And is that why they brought Jill in the next one?
And I think it was entirely like I think it was like monetary reasons. I think at one point I heard that idea was that as long as the films kept doing well, that Alice would then turn up in the game, or they would do a game based on Alice. But obviously that didn't happen.
None of the fans of the games liked it enough, surely, to do that. The people watch it.
Yeah.
Some
people love it.
There's how many films? 6 or 7?
6.
6. To make 6 films, there must be a massive following, and I don't know any of these people.
It made $1.2 billion across 6 films.
Wow. I said the most disappointing thing about the film before. It's only fair to say the best part was the fact that I had Slipknot on the soundtrack, and 12-year-old me was like, yes.
The end credits, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that's it. Maybe they have a part of it like during an action sequence or something. There might be a little bit of it in there.
Like, bam, 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 bam. And she like slowly kicks a dog in the face,
and then it stops. Yeah, as the dog yelps.
Kicking the dog. That was just the last straw. Wasn't it?
And then
you don't kick dogs.
And then at the very end, they brought
Not
in
the Resident Evil, you don't, mate.
No,
well, the liquor was the big villain.
Yeah.
And they ended up. What did they do? Did they just disconnect
was,
the train
wasn't it?
carriage
Yeah,
and it just got crushed?
into the...
Or something like that.
I don't think it crushed. I think it just disappeared into the...
It wasn't as fast as a train.
Yeah.
It's still in the dark. Looking for its way out.
Oh, come on.
Guys!
Yeah, very poor. But at the end, when she comes out into the city and the city's all trashed, that might be the best kind of scene.
Yeah, I remember watching it and thinking, great, it's going to follow on and it's going to be like Resident Evil 2. It's going to be in the middle of Raccoon City, and the second one's going to be like Resident Evil 2. And
Well, it was in the middle of Raccoon City, so wasn't it?
yeah, but I thought it was going to be like, I say, following the story of like Resident Evil 2, and they're going to be trapped in a police station, and it was all going to like be like the game again.
Claire and Leon would turn
It's like,
up
right, they failed the first one, let's see if the second one does.
Isn't there a guy in the first one who is kind of like the secondary character? Some guy who gets infected, and then at the end, all the people come in and don't they say load the Nemesis project, Nemesis program.
Billy Cohen, isn't it?
No, it's a totally unnamed. I think he's
and that's them explaining
he's
how
just
Nemesis
called
was
like
made.
James or something.
Well, he ends up being Nemesis.
Apparently so.
Well, because what I read is that Billy Cohen is like, it's a massive theory of people saying that Billy Cohen is actually Nemesis.
Oh, is this in the game then? Are you thinking? Or is he in the films as well now?
No, this is just a game. I'm talking about this. Sorry.
Oh no! So in the film,
right.
it's a nobody.
Oh, in the film. Sorry. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm getting the two mixed up. Then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in the film, it's
I'll wait until we get to the games. Then. Sorry.
Yeah. In the film,
Yeah.
I'm interested
in the
that.
film, it's a nobody, and to kind of I'll bring this up at the end because I wrote a script for Resident Evil 0/1. I wrote that at university. It was my dissertation. Was a script how I would make those films, and it was about I had to put in like 30 pages, and I ended up like submitting like 125. and I was like, am I allowed to do that? And they were like, you can do it if you want. It has to be at least 30, and I was like, there you go.
Do it like
they're not in order.
Oh, I'm supposed to put numbers on them.
Do it like no one's going to read it.
Yeah, that's my proudest moment is like is handing in that script and getting a first for it and being like, I'm a writer.
Brilliant.
Resident Evil 0, let's start there.
Resident Evil.
Very good.
Right, so Resident Evil 0, so that's technically sort of prequel, but also sort of concurrent with Resident Evil 1. This was was this the first one that was on the GameCube? Or was
No, it came out after the remake.
Came after the remake.
I haven't played on Zero, by the way. Full disclosure, everyone.
Didn't have a GameCube, did you?
No, I played the remake on my mate's GameCube, but I didn't get round to Zero.
Actually, you can get them on the Xbox now, both 0 and 1 in a package.
I got it on the PS4.
It's like 20 quid. Well, it wasn't. It was new, so.
Ah, well, that's possibly for the future. Maybe a year's time.
They get the HD remasters.
Sweet.
There's always, I think, like Capcom.
There was baboons in it.
I think Capcom have a thing like every so often Ubisoft. I think Ubisoft right now are 60% off all their games, but up to 60%, and then I think Capcom do the same thing every so often. So you probably only get them both for like £7 or something.
Sweet. Wait, so zombie baboons?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't want to shoot baboons.
Well, might not be baboons, but they're definitely some kind of monkey.
Should.
I don't want to shoot any kind of monkey. It doesn't matter.
Well, it's going to rip your face off.
Alright, I'll shoot a baboon.
So,
but yeah, so I was just saying that because obviously I haven't played it. It is
that's fine. I mean,
it's by looks and I looked at the biographies and stuff. So.
I haven't played it all the way through either. I've only got halfway through.
I have, but it was years ago, so I'm interested to get the.
So we'll try and blast through this again. A lot of it's like additional stuff that we don't really need. Obviously, the stories are always so like full of extra stuff and all the like. Yeah. There's always like some sort of like a courtroom, not a courtroom drama, but there's always like a business drama about no, I want to be in charge. No, I'm in charge. Well, I'm going to inject you with this thing, and I'm going to kill your kids as well. It's like what? That escalated quickly. So it is July 23rd, 1998, and the pharmaceutical company Umbrella has a train traveling through the Arklay Forest. It's called the Ecliptic Express. And the train is attacked by a swarm of leeches.
Leeches?
The passengers and the crew are attacked, and a mysterious young man watches the resulting chaos from a hillside. 2 hours later, the Bravo team of the Stars are sent to investigate a series of cannibalistic murders in the Arklay Mountains outside of Raccoon City.
Special Tactics and Rescue Squad. Is that right?
That's right. On the way to the scene, its helicopter has an engine failure and crash lands in the forest. While searching the area, Rebecca Chambers comes across the express, now motionless, and explores it, only to discover that everyone on board has turned into a zombie. Unaware of their transformation due to the result of exposure to Umbrella's T-virus that was contained within the leeches, she explores the train for answers and teams up with Billy Cohen, a former Marine who was to be executed for killing 23 people until the military police van transporting him crashed in the region. The pair soon notice the same mysterious young man moments before the train suddenly begins moving again. Rebecca and Billy apply the brakes. They end up in another Umbrella facility. So that in this mountainside, there's 2 Umbrella facilities, one underneath the mansion and one in a cave. They discover that the young man is actually the corporation's co-founder, Dr. James Marcus, who was responsible for discovering the progenitor virus in the 60s and has used that to create a biological weapon. And combined it with leech DNA, which has created the T virus. So it's and the progenitor virus comes up in Resident Evil 5 because that's what's in Africa. So he found that. It's like it's from a flower. He found that, comes back to America, combines it with leeches, and creates the T virus. Something that you would, like, for me, you would not get from the games.
It's funny, though, because...
It's happened so many times, though. Like, you go back in the story and then you would never know.
The thing about the leeches is exclusive to 0.
Exactly.
It's set at the same time as 1, but you never see anything of that in there. But it's the same virus, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Is it not just because of the setting, like, the leeches are only in this particular place? Or...
Well, if I remember correctly, I think he has some sort of ability to control them as well.
Leeches, yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
Which is, again, immediately...
From the hill.
Right.
But again, like...
Sends with a trade.
From 1994 to 1999, it's fairly simple. And then the minute you get, like, the 2000s, they're like... And then he can control the leeches. And you're like, this isn't what Resident Evil is about.
Yeah, I would much rather just a virus.
There's no magic in Resident Evil, I don't think.
Yeah.
Right,
I think they do it in Resident Evil because they have the whole, like... Well, Wesker's just need somehow become injected with... to make them superhuman kind of thing. And from there, they've started to bring in all these other characters that could do that kind of...
Well, it's a phrase we've said before. It gets more Japanesey the more it goes on.
Right.
And by that, I mean, they start to do things that perhaps we as a Western audience would be like, that's a very strange move.
Yeah.
But the Japanese, the
catering,
Asian market,
catering more to.
But the Asian markets are like, well, no, that's. I was trying to. I was watching or reading something, and they were saying that the way they do things, their art is a lot more about emotions than it is about like making sense.
So it's more like metaphors than actual.
Exactly.
Reality.
But then to show that they do like magical stuff that we would be like, well, that's weird. Yeah. But they're just like, no, that makes perfect sense to us. Yeah.
I think that's why a lot of people like kind of Japanese anime.
Yeah, because
it's a bit like, well, that's weird.
Pretty deep stuff though as well. Like,
I think a lot of people feel like
I wish
I was in that culture rather than this culture. I think a lot of people do wish that.
Well, my brother does.
Yeah, and then he did it.
But he's gone.
Yeah.
Get him on the phone. Do you like leeches? What about magic?
Magic leeches.
So they so Rebecca and Billy are in this facility. Of course, they get split up. Rebecca meets Captain Enrico Marini, and he's telling him, "Oh, I found this and that." Before he does off,
she meets him in the facility.
Yeah,
right. Okay.
And then he heads off to the mansion, and then she meets back up with Billy, and they're attacked by a tyrant. Again, I don't think it's the same tyrant from Resident Evil 1.
I can't even remember it.
And they work together and defeat that. Then they reach the leech-controlling man, who's James Marcus's final experiment, the Queen Leech. So, and then you get into like the kind of the behind the scenes drama. The Queen Leech. You know, that was the best thing they could come up with. The behind the scenes drama of things like 10 years before this incident, Marcus was assassinated on the orders of Umbrella's other co-founder, Oswell E. Spencer, who wanted his research.
Spencer's from the first one, right?
Yeah.
The Spencer estate, is it? The mansion?
Spencer Mansion. After his corpse was dumped, the Queen Leech entered his body and reanimated it, gaining his memories and the ability to shapeshift, whereupon it believed itself to be Marcus and orchestrated the T-virus outbreak in the facility and on the train as a means of revenge against Umbrella. So again, it's not something I picked up from... Well, I might not have got this far in the game, to be fair. Yeah. Then they temporarily defeat the Queen Leech, and they set off the self-destruct, as you always do in Resident Evil. You've got to self-destruct something. They get pursued, they fight it off again, and then eventually, obviously, the self-destruct goes off with the villain inside. Billy wants to obviously leave and not go to the mansion. Rebecca says, obviously, I'll say that you died in this explosion, and I will head off.
That's what she says, yeah.
After my captain.
In 1.
Yeah. And while all this is happening...
She doesn't say that in 1, because he's not mentioned in 1.
Oh, no, in 0.
And what I'm saying is, she's in 1, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So
in
1, that's when she tells everyone that everyone's dead.
Yeah, I think literally the ending of Resident Evil...
Like that as well.
is waving. Sure. I think Resident Evil 0 is literally her like turning and looking over a hill at the mansion.
Yeah, it is.
And then
the end, yeah.
But some more behind the scenes drama. Whilst all this happened, Wesker decides to leave Umbrella and join a rival company and makes plans for further research on the T-virus, while Dr. Birkin refuses his offer to join him, instead opting to complete his research on the G-virus.
Birkin's somewhere related in this one?
Dr. It might come up later in the Resident Evil story. If it doesn't, I'll explain a bit more about them later. Okay. But again, a lot of behind the scenes drama that I think in 4 or 5 you get a little snippet of Oswell Spencer. I think James Marcus only appears in this one, but he's mentioned in other things. And then obviously you get, as the games go on, you learn more about Wesker, and Wesker's not just like a guy. He might have been like way older than he says he is, and might have been involved in the creation. But so again, kind of gets much messier later on. But for now, we'll try and keep it simple and just break it down game by game.
Again, as all these things do, you just get messier and messier.
Well, in the first episode, we tried to like explain everything that we could, and I think we just got totally lost and ended up just being like, and then I would, I don't know, Leonardo DiCaprio is Leonardo DiCaprio. So I did a full breakdown of the Bravo team for this fan cast. Again, no one's really in it.
Yeah, I would not have went as far as you have with that.
Enrico's the only one who turns up again. Everyone else dies either...
Except Rebecca, obviously.
Rebecca and Billy. Everyone either dies immediately or gets injured and turns up in Resident Evil 1 for a split second before dying.
Yeah.
So again, I'll just quickly blast through these because obviously we don't want to talk about them too much. Enrico Marini, I picked Nathan Fillion because I just wanted to put loads of just like nerd people in it. I just thought if people are going to turn up for like, you know, effectively you're going to meet them maybe at the headquarters in a helicopter, they're going to get split up in a forest and then never appear again.
So you're talking about people who would just be buzzing to be part of the project.
or people that would be like, you know, so for me, if I was like, wait a minute, Nathan Fillion's in this, and then you'd be like, it was just like, oh, that just adds a level of like, oh, so these people who are making this film clearly know the audience they're going for. And then I went, so pretty much it's Bravo team leader who is found but soon killed off by a hunter, or depending on which character you pick in Resident Evil 1, a snake. Yeah. So if you go with Chris, he gets killed by a hunter, but with Jill, he gets eaten by a snake. Right.
Why would they have to differentiate these things like that?
Well, if you don't, depending on who you pick in the first one, you fight zombie sharks, or you don't fight them at all.
Yeah.
So
I forgot about the shark.
Then there's Richard Aiken, who's the communications expert. He is the first person to be attacked by a snake, and I think Rebecca saves him in Resident Evil 1.
Yes. And is he from Bravo team?
And then he just dies later.
How does he die then? You don't have to save him.
I think he just succumbs to like the venom. I think
so she doesn't save him.
Well, he can die immediately, or you can save him and then he dies eventually. I think he either dies or turns into a zombie. I think one of the two.
Right.
And again, for that one, I just picked the guy who plays Constantine on TV, Matt Ryan. He was also the voice of Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Again, I was just picking people from like DC TV shows, and then I picked someone from a Marvel TV show. I just picked different people. Forrest Spear, who
he's Alpha team, isn't he? Oh no, he's not. He's Bravo.
He's Bravo team. He makes it to the mansion, but is pecked to death by crows.
Yeah, you didn't even see him in Zero either, did you?
You just see him already pecked to death by crows.
Aye, and if you play as Jill, you get the bazooka from his corpse. So he's shooting the crows with the bazooka and still manages to get killed, mate.
Well, to be fair, it would be pretty hard to hit a crow with a bazooka. Especially multiple crows.
No one else saw the missiles going off. He wasn't at one point like, I'll blow the door in and get inside.
Unless he's using the bazooka as like a SWAT, like a bat.
I'm sure, like, when they did the remake of it, those kind of characters, they would come back as zombies later on. So you could go to Forest and get the bazooka, and then much later on, I'm sure there's something else, because he's on a balcony outside of the mansion. I'm sure you can go back for some reason, or maybe you don't even have to. But if you do, and you go around, then he is a zombie, and they're always scarier when you know that they're not just the normal zombies.
Yeah, he's been pecked to death by crows. So he's extra zombie.
So for that, I picked the guy who plays Iron Fist on the Marvel Netflix show, Finn Jones. Again, just a nerd name. And then Kenneth J. Sullivan. This is the guy who is in Resident Evil 1 when you first meet the zombie. That's the guy who's getting eaten.
Alright, okay.
Again.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's Kenneth.
Do you remember the opening when it was played by actors?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I watched that again the other day.
I put a thing on Instagram of Albert Wesker just like combing his hair.
It's really terrible, isn't it?
Great.
I stumbled across them. Someone's went around and tried to find like what they're doing now, and I took pictures of them.
Because there's the intro, and then they do like a Chris Redfield.
And it burns away. It's like Jill Valentine, like just a berry.
Saracen. Jet.
So that guy was just went from Marvel and just picked the guy who plays I forgot his name, Luke Cage, Mike Coulter. Oh. Then you've got James Marcus. So again, this is guy. He's an old guy, but also because he can obviously shapeshift, he's also a young guy.
I've got James Marcus on that, by the way, so we can.
So fantastic. Let's go for that. So we've already explained he's the guy who discovers a progenitor virus, uses leech DNA to create the T virus, and his researchers who help him are William Birkin and Albert Wesker.
Right. Oh, so when do you know what you're saying? He's young and old. Is it just like flashbacks that you're seeing when he's
No, you can control because he
can control age.
Yeah. Right. Well, he is an old man, but he can shapeshift.
So for some reason, so he goes back to his own self.
He decides to look like a young man.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. I mean, you would,
wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So I picked Stellan Skarsgård and Alexander Skarsgård.
Oh, right. Okay.
So it would be Stellan as an old man, and then his own son would play him.
Yeah,
I quite like that.
You went from a completely different focus than I did, but yeah, I just went for Jared Leto as young James Marcus.
That's
Like,
right.
I thought afterwards though, he's in a little bit of hot water at the minute. So
Is he?
you know,
Oh, what's he done?
What's he done?
he sends inappropriate texts to people, and apparently he solicits things that he shouldn't.
Oh, God.
And then I realised after I noticed that I've got a couple of people in my list that are in hot water.
Oh, no.
I want things to go back to how they were. But anyway, I've got Jared Leto as the young James Marcus. I've got James Cromwell as the old James Marcus, who was the old guy in Babe, and
Right.
he's a similar character. He was like an evil kind of doctor guy in
He is an evil doctor.
American Horror
Yeah,
Story.
he is.
So that's why he was perfect at that part. I thought.
And then you got Billy Cohen.
Billy Cohen.
So this is another one. His whole thing is that he's on death row for murdering 23 people. But if you look back into his history, he's one of the Marines who went to Africa to get the progenitor virus. He's the only one who survived, and that's why. And that's for somehow whatever reason they're transporting him through the forest, and that happens to be obviously Marcus wants him dead because he knows what's happened.
That's why he attacks the train.
Well, I think
Because he wants him dead.
I think it's. I don't know if it's twofold or I can't believe it's coincidence that they would be transporting him through this forest randomly. But there's something about it where I think in the first game it's just that he happens to crash and then joins Rebecca. But then in the later games they reveal actually he was involved in like what would be Resident Evil 5.
So to cover up his knowledge of the virus, he attacks a train to kill him on it and subsequently turning everyone on the train into zombies to cover up the virus.
You could argue that was the case, or you could argue that someone else 10 years later tried to fit the Billy Cohen story into their Resident Evil 5 story.
Yeah, I mean that makes a lot more sense.
Right.
But again,
and also, I mean, you said they refused to believe it's coincidence. I think we're forgetting,
Oh no, I think it's total
source,
coincidence
yeah.
at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I do like the idea of someone trying to make Billy actually fit into the universe a bit more. But it doesn't hold water when you watch.
Yeah.
But in your memory, if you're playing 5 and you remembered 0, you'd be like, oh, that kind of fits, I guess.
Yeah.
What was your theory that you were reading about Billy being Nemesis?
It was just literally loads of people saying that Billy Cohen turned out to be Nemesis in the third one.
But why? Why did they say that?
Honestly, I didn't even read that much into it. It was when I was at work and I was casting Billy Cohen, so I was searching for his name and stuff, and like trying to learn a little bit about him because I haven't played 0. And most of the stories that were coming up were saying Billy Cohen, Nemesis, and I read a little bit about it and saying, so this is what I've learned and this is what I've decided. And there was some there was some official looking stories about it.
I'll read up on that. I think.
Yeah.
Did you played much of 0? Did you, Dan?
About half, I would say. I would guess.
Yeah,
About
no.
half. No, I just.
Did you play it years later?
Oh,
Did you play it at the time?
it's on the PS4. So I started playing it, and then just other games came along.
Billy was kind of good actually, because it was the first Resident Evil where you played 2 characters simultaneously.
All right.
But so obviously you could do like Rebecca was a weedy young girl who couldn't do all the hard lifting and all that stuff, so she'd be lifted through little air vents and stuff, and then she would be on one side and you'd switch between the characters, but your other character can still get attacked and things.
Okay.
It's cool that.
Nice. So Billy Cohen.
Yeah. I was going to say that the end of my script that I wrote for uni, it was a classic like Billy got hurt and he covered it up, and so that Rebecca didn't think anything. So Billy would go away, and then like in a diner would start to like change into the Nemesis, and then what happened was Leon S. Kennedy came into the diner, and that was like Leon's first meeting with something, and he thought he killed it, but Billy's body kept transforming.
It's a good idea, Dan.
And then Leon went into the city, and as he went into the city, it was like cars were crashing, and it was all kicking off, and that's how I ended my film script.
Awesome.
Leon doesn't come across Nemesis though.
No, that's true, but it was just again, we'll just say that in the next one, Leon's on that side of Raccoon City and Nemesis on this side. Yeah, so Billy Cohen, I went older for Billy, but I picked someone who I think would probably be a good fit, Frank Grillo, who was Crossbones in Captain America 2, and he was also the lead in the third Purge.
All right.
He's kind of like a real budget Bruce Willis.
Right. Okay. Well, for mine, I went like a bigger star because I was thinking about this whole Nemesis theory. So I thought, if the films did carry on from here and he did end up being like, villain and stuff, you would need some star power there. And he's also my second guy who's in Hot Water.
Oh no.
It's James Franco.
Is he in Hot Water as well?
No,
Yeah.
I think his hot water starting to cool down. To be fair,
It is because he's done absolutely nothing since the accusations came up. So there was loads of accusations. People didn't go to the Oscars because they thought he was gone.
What's he done?
It was more just about the kind of things he said and the way that he treats people on set. He hasn't done anything specific, but
he has been pretty quiet recently.
Yeah,
to be fair.
yeah. I think he's just completely clammed up about it because people were wearing t-shirts and everything at the Oscars,
Really?
specifically against him.
Where have I been? Like?
Yeah. But yeah, so I think he's just done nothing, and I'd like to bring him back.
Good for you.
As Billy Cohen.
I'm sure the Resident Evil prequels, where we'd be able to get him for it.
I didn't cast anyone for Billy. I was struggling. I added him later on, but I remember years ago when I was watching Lost, Sawyer always reminded me of Billy. Do you remember him?
Josh Holloway.
Is that his name?
Yeah.
Probably because he had that slick back hair. He was pretty. He was a bit of a criminal type. Just bring him in. He'll do it.
I remember when he turned.
He is that basically Billy in Lost.
Yeah, when he turned up in Mission Impossible 4 when he's had a haircut, and I was like, Sawyer. No, Sawyer.
Is he done anything, that guy?
He has a TV show. He has a TV show about the apocalypse or alien invasion or something like that. Effectively, it's like the that Stephen King story, The Dome, but it's not a dome. It's just like a massive wall. And then the hero of our story, Rebecca, who of course, if you made a Resident Evil 0 film, would of course turn up in Resident Evil, the second one, which would actually be the first one. And I picked someone who's a real up and coming. Well, she's not even up and coming. She's probably established as a star now. She's been in so many things. Anya Taylor-Joy, who was the girl who survived at the end of the Shyamalan film Split.
Yeah, she went through mine for her, actually, funnily enough. And it was mainly because I was looking for really young actresses. I feel like she needed a young actress to do the role. I went for Maisie Williams.
Would fit also.
Is that
Game of Thrones.
she? Oh, right.
Yeah.
The one with the needle.
Girl has no name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she could do it.
Yeah.
She's very young, isn't she?
That's what. She's older than 18 now. But
the medic and she.
But she's obviously what I was going like. She can be shy, timid, kind of quiet, but also
I wonder if that's like a thing with my age, because she seems really young to me in that part.
I feel like that is when you
maybe because I'm getting older. The younger people in movies and TV are now a lot younger. And I'm like,
keep in mind, Game of Thrones have been going for 7 years.
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
So she was really young at the
Oh yeah, no. I'm not saying it's a bad choice, but I'm just.
No, I'm not saying that.
That happens quite often for me. That when actors are casting main parts, and I'm like, way too young.
Yeah. But you don't find it with in sports, and they're like,
oh yeah, Christ.
Like 17 years old, you're like, you look like a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
And you're like, this 17-year-old's already made more money and is more successful than I'll ever be.
You realise you're older than everyone on your fantasy team.
That's mad. That's a mad thought. That.
Look at the ages on your fantasy team.
That's crazy.
It's so upsetting.
I cast Ellen Page for Rebecca.
Oh yeah.
That was good, definitely. She's another one who's like, I think she must have come onto the game very young, but I think she's like nearly 30.
She's
she looks young though.
Yeah. She's 30 now, but she still looks.
I didn't
really
want to cast someone too young for it
because she's been going for so long. Obviously, Juno was like years and years ago. I thought she was older than that.
Yeah.
But she looks like she's in her 20s.
Start them young in these days. The other one I was thinking of is that the little girl, well, say little teenage girl who was in True Grit, but now she's like 25 years old or something like that. And I was like, oh, well, you're not really young enough, I guess.
I mean, when you look at even It Girl, Chloe Moretz, she's in her 20s now. Mm-hmm. That's unbelievable. Like Kick-Ass seems like it was 2 minutes ago, man.
Where does the time go, Brett?
I know.
I struggle to cast a lot of these characters because they're quite one-dimensional, aren't they?
Oh yeah, for sure.
They're just kind of like...
Most of them are fodder.
Yeah. I think that's the thing is, anybody of the right...
I struggled because I was like, well, it doesn't really matter too much.
Anybody of the right age range, like slight look, will be able to do it.
Well, you know what I'm like. I like to cast a star and then kill them off early. So.
But I was more thinking along the lines of, obviously, if you're making it into a film, you're going to be adding them like a little bit of extra dimension.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
want you do.
I think you would start
stuff.
with you would start them in the office, and you get to see that you get to see who are friends with each other. The call comes in, something's wrong with Bravo team.
Yeah.
Get to the chopper on the roof.
One of them's just been through a breakup or something, and he's they're sad about that, but then they have to be forced into this. And
Chris Redfield is the most boring character. Right?
he really is, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the most white bread character ever.
He's just army man.
Not
Army
in this,
man.
not in this film we're making though.
Yeah,
it's got to be.
I've cast someone who's incredibly boring.
In the George Romero script, he was a Native American.
Really?
Who was he knew something was up because of the birds, the animals were acting differently, so he knew something was in the air was wrong.
Do you think Romero did this because his surname was Redfield?
Honestly, I don't know, but I think it's when you think about all the changes that were made to Anderson's Resident Evil, that is not the most craziest thing I could think of.
Oh, absolutely.
And in fact, it's more interesting because Chris is so one-dimensional.
Yeah, he needs to. He's probably realised I need to add a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think
to this
in horror movies though, your characters tend to be quite one-dimensional. So
yeah.
if you are going to make a Resident Evil movie that's a horror movie like the game, you don't even need that much.
And then if you think about it, the ones that aren't one-dimensional are the super famous ones. Yeah. So it's like obviously Jamie Lee Curtis will forever be known as Laurie Strode because it's a real person who is genuinely being attacked by this man, whereas a lot of the times it's just no names or people you actually don't like and are like, God, I hope you die next.
It is good when the person you want to die dies, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's not making you a bad person. It's probably wishing someone dies in a horrific way because you don't really care for them very much.
And it enrages you if that's the person who survives and you're like...
It's like when they put Percy in the straitjacket and lock him in the Green Mile and they lock him in the solitary confinement room. Like, get in, Percy!
And now let's move on to Resident Evil.
Resident Evil.
Very good. So if we're going to make a film, we'd probably just do the first one because the whole leeches thing just confuses everything in Zero, doesn't it?
I 100% agree. If you're going to do
and I quite like the idea of the Bravo team going in and you getting little snippets of what happened through Rebecca and things, and finding different people.
You don't have to see everything that's happened.
Yeah, that's what it would be. I think it would be maybe a message is received from Rebecca, set Rebecca up. And then when halfway through the film she reappears, you're like, that's the girl from the video I saw at the beginning of the film.
Yeah. She might tell a bit more of a story, you might see some clips from it or something, but you don't need to see everything.
You wouldn't need to, you would just cut the fact that, you do want...
I mean, when you see her in the game, she's cowering in the corner of a safe room, but then she's cowering because there's a lot of zombies outbreaking the mansion, they don't know what to do because they haven't prepared for it. Whereas she's just dealt with the whole Resident Evil Zero.
Yeah.
She went through the whole that and then went to the mansion and went, I'm scared, hid in the corner.
You could almost play it like she's absolutely terrified, and then by the time she turns up in the actual film, she's an absolute badass. She's like, I know how to kill these things. Yeah. Daggers to the head.
Yeah, I don't know.
But you could still play her as kind of waspy and...
I'd want to be more loyal to the first one. The first one was...
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I would definitely do the whole thing of you would set up you would set up something involving the Bravo team have definitely gone in, and so that Bravo team members can turn up to be killed, because if your film was Chris, Jill, Barry, Wesker, and Rebecca, who's going to die? You need Richard, you need Enrico, you need them to reappear. So just to set them up, there's a six person Bravo team, and we haven't heard from them. This is the last thing we had. This is the only person we know is alive at this point, and we're going to go and try and find them. And then when they turn up...
You can still have Forrest be killed by the crows, but then you witness that happening, I suppose.
Maybe Jill's on the out, she's on the other side of the window, and she can't smash the window, and you have to just watch them get killed. And then when she goes...
firing a bazooka in the air.
That's right. Doesn't even think to fire it at the window. He's like, no, I'm going to go for it. But then later on, as you say, by the time she gets outside, maybe he comes back, and then she's got to blow him away.
I mean, that would make it a bit more entertaining than a film about someone in the police finding different emblemed keys to unlock different rooms in the mansion.
But you've got to...
whole middle part of the game, how would you even do that as a story?
I think you would just ignore it. As I say, from the script that I wrote, all of the emblems and stuff like that was just totally ignored.
Would you put bosses in it? So would you put a big snake in there?
I had a snake, a hunter.
Yeah.
I don't think I had a plant.
I would cut the plant, wouldn't you?
There was. Do you remember when the remake happened? There was Lisa Trevor. She was in the
Yes.
little shack.
Yeah.
I had her turn up a couple
Spencer's
of times.
daughter, is that right?
I don't know. She's called Lisa Trevor, so I would guess she wasn't Spencer's daughter. I would guess
Just something to do with the.
just something to
people-
do with someone.
Yeah.
She could be. But I that's what I had her turning up a couple of times, so that like she would turn up and cause mayhem, and they would all have to like split up.
She was creepy, her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the very, very end, like Wesker sorts her out. But I thought that's what I did. And you would like, I want to say I think I wrote the sharks in and then cut them out at the end, and I was like, this is just mental.
What about the giant spider?
No,
Tarantula?
I'm scared of spiders, so I would never write one in.
That's more reason to write it in.
It definitely is.
I think you
not.
should probably cut. You should put, for a movie, they'd be a bit out of place, wouldn't they?
I would like to see more focus on just zombies rather than other creatures coming in there.
Yeah, I agree.
Dogs as well. I think.
Yeah, when dogs.
Oh,
Dog
yeah,
jumping
for
through
sure,
the window
dogs.
bit, that is-
Dogs for
that is
sure.
Yeah,
iconic
but
in the
well,
game.
yeah, but that makes more sense because it's a zombie dog. It's a dog that's been attacked by a zombie. Spiders don't get attacked by zombies. They turn into giant
Tim
spiders.
just grow an insane amount.
So just focus on this other virus part of it. The fact it's a virus.
But
it's
in the
not
game,
like-
is that what's supposed to happen to the spiders, or are they
No, I
created
think
in a lab?
I think well, it's like in the number 2 where the spill and it goes into the sewer.
Yeah.
Right,
Anything
okay.
can be attacked by.
So it ingests the
yeah,
the
it
venom.
just like maybe it goes across it or drinks some of it, and that's it. It's,
Right.
it's already
Right, so-
changing.
What about the snake?
I think it's exactly the same. I think it's just they're testing it on all different kinds of animals, and the answer seems to always be they get bigger and more violent.
Let's try another one.
Let's put it on this
So why
daffodil.
don't-
Oh
Why don't the humans get bigger? Why don't they just get like giant for the zombies?
no! Well,
like,
don't forget in the remake they did.
They didn't get bigger; they just got faster and scarier.
Yeah, so if you didn't set them on fire or blow the head off, they would come back as I think they were just called redheads,
Crimson heads.
crimson heads.
Crimson
Every time
heads.
you put a zombie down, they would stay there, and you could. I think Chris got a lighter,
Mhm.
but Jill got a lockpick. So Jill had to find a lighter, and you carry a kerosene. You could only put like 3
Wasn't
doses
much.
in, so you can only burn 3 zombies at a time. And there was only a certain amount of kerosene in the game, so you definitely at some point you'd be leaving zombies there, and you'd be like, if you come back, as you walk past them, they would rise and be like kind of like steaming in the head, and they would be a lot faster and chase you.
It
It was scary as hell.
it was good because they didn't like get up. It was
Nah, it was
like
weird, wasn't it?
like a marionette pulled the
Yeah.
strings up, and they would just rise up,
Creepy,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
and you were like 180 turn and out.
yeah.
So the first time you play it, when you didn't know where you would end up going back to, or
Yeah.
that would even happen.
This definitely rings a bell, and I think actually you might have mentioned this in the first one,
Quite possible.
and also I think we might have even watched it when we were watching the playthrough.
Again, it's
I think
possible.
we might have seen it happen, and I thought, what the bloody hell's that?
It wasn't a major change, but it was quite good. It was quite.
Well,
I enjoyed it.
if you played the first one and didn't read any reviews, and when that happened, because it's arguably it's 95% identical.
Yeah.
You'd be like, this is not something, and you'd probably try to fight it and die. Which again, obviously, how infuriating is it in Resident Evil to die?
Yeah.
Because you're desperately trying not to save because it was
You
definitely
know, there's a certain amount of ink.
yeah. Unless you put it on like, did it really? Did they have difficulties when it first came out?
Yeah.
Did it? Oh, I feel like
But the difficulties was to do with ammo and ink cartridges,
in cartridges,
stuff like that. Herbs, you wouldn't get as much. You know.
It didn't take as many shots to kill him.
And then there was also like a different kind of level. You could play as Jill, and you'd get 8 slots to put things in. And if you played as Chris, you got 6. So it was always
Yes.
slightly harder
Yeah, I do
to
remember
beat
that.
Chris.
'Cause
And Jill got a lockpick, so she could do all the slightly locked doors, but
That's
Chris
right,
had to
yeah.
find small keys.
So you would pick a difficulty, but then if you played as Chris, it was more difficult.
So you could do hard with Chris, and it was solid.
because you didn't start with a gun either.
No, yeah,
Doesn't he give his gun away to her or something?
No, it depends. If you play as Chris when you go into the mansion, Jill, Barry's missing.
That's right.
If you play as Jill, Chris is missing.
Well, let's get into the story then, because I think that comes up in my thing because of the way that because obviously there's technically 2 different stories, and different things happen. I think this is kind of an amalgamation.
And it's not
of
like
both.
the second game where the 2 stories happen at the same
Yeah,
time.
yeah. This is like depending on who you pick, it's
A different game.
I say people die a different way. People turn up differently. So I think if you're with Jill, you meet Enrico, but if you're with Chris, you meet Richard, etc., etc.
Right.
So we're back in 1998 when a series of bizarre murders occur on the outskirts of the Midwestern town of Raccoon City. The Raccoon Police Department's STARS team are assigned to investigate. STARS stands for
Special Tactics and Rescue Squad.
Okay.
After contact with Bravo team is lost, Alpha team is sent to investigate their disappearance. Alpha Team locates Bravo Team's crashed helicopter and land at the site, where they are suddenly attacked by a pack of monstrous dogs, killing team member Joseph Frost. Alpha Team's helicopter pilot, Brad Vickers, the real villain of the story, panics and takes off alone. The remaining members of the team are forced to seek refuge in a nearby abandoned mansion.
Does he?
Yeah,
That's what happens.
that's why. And then and then he turns up in number 3.
So they run at him and then he turns off. He disappears.
I think at one point Chris does the whole thing and he's like, Brad, no, what is he doing? It's that kind of voice acting.
Chris was particularly shit in
Chris and Barry are separated from the rest of the team during the chase and do not make it to the mansion. At this point, the team decides to split up to investigate.
Chris and Barry?
Again, because you've got the 2 different stories
Okay.
in it now. Over the course of the game, the player. See, now it becomes the player. The story's now the 4th wall's been broken. The player encounters several members of Bravo Team, including Enrico, who reveals that one of Alpha Team's members is a traitor. So that would be interesting.
Does he?
If a character
Yeah, he does.
reappears covered in blood.
When
and
do you
goes,
meet Enrico?
Jill meets him in a cave.
With the spiders.
No,
So just-
snake.
Does he not just say who it is, man? Instead of just
No, I don't think he knows.
Do you
Right.
fight the snake twice?
You fight the snake
Because
once
you fight in the attic.
in the attic, and then you fight, and then it bursts through the wall, picks up Enrico, and then I think what you have to do is you have to shoot Enrico, and it sets off a grenade.
In the first game?
If I remember correctly, yes, in the remake.
On the remake?
Yeah, not the first. Not the.
Because you fight it in a library again some way. On the remake.
Yeah, well, in George Romero's script, you also fight a snake in a library. I remember that vividly. I can't, like, if you've got like an hour and a half spare, and I know you guys don't, but if you do, you should really try and get a hold of that script because it's absolutely. I think it's mint. I don't know about the original, but in the remake, he definitely is in the cave. He's a traitor, and eventually learns that a series of illegal experiments were being undertaken by a clandestine research team under the authority and supervision of biomedical company the Umbrella Corporation. The creatures roaming the mansion and its surrounding areas are the results of these experiments, which have exposed the mansion's personnel and various animals and insects to a highly contagious and mutagenic biological agent known as the T-virus. Eventually, they discover a secret underground laboratory containing Umbrella's experiments. In the lab, the player encounters Wesker, who reveals that he is a double agent working for Umbrella, which is different to Resident Evil 0 because you learn that he's a double agent against Umbrella. So again, that could be a little bit of a retcon. And plans to use the Tyrant, a giant humanoid super soldier, to kill the remaining STARS team. However, in the ensuing confrontation, Wesker is supposedly killed, and the rest of the team defeats the Tyrant by shooting it with a rocket launcher as Brad arrives to save them with a helicopter. Wesker is revealed to have not died, but has injected himself with some of the T-virus and is able to heal himself. As he leaves the mansion during its self-destruction, he encounters the Lisa Trevor monster, shoots the chandelier, impaling the monster, and then he pretty much like walks away from the mansion as it explodes without looking back. Real Michael Bay style.
Nice.
And obviously I've cast Wesker as Michael Bay. So that's like that's like another difference that obviously isn't in the original because Lisa Trevor didn't exist. And the Lisa Trevor monster cannot be killed in the game, but if you watch the credits all the way to the end, it might be at post credits, Wesker gets up, reveals that he's unkillable now, and kills that monster.
How does he reveal that in that way?
I think he's like split in half,
Right.
and he actually he literally puts himself back together.
Okay.
I don't think I'd put Lisa in a film.
I don't think you. Well, she's not really iconic, is she? She's not as iconic as the other.
I can't even remember the link, like how they brought her in.
She's
the daughter.
She's someone who they continue to experiment on,
yeah.
And she seems to be immune to a lot of it. And then I think eventually she gets tested so many times that she becomes totally messed up, and that's why she looks the way she looks. And then they chain her in a cave at the bottom of the garden.
You said insects there. Is it the first one where you get those weird, like, kind of locust things?
It doesn't spring to mind.
Surely isn't the
It's
second
possible. It's gotta be really
like
because it couldn't be 2 or
rang a
3.
tiny little faint bell in the back of my head when you said that. Then.
But yeah, so that's Resident Evil in an absolute nutshell.
What was the name of the guy that you said at the start? What was his name that ran away again? The one who ran at the start?
With the helicopter pilot.
No, the guy who ran away turns up in 3.
Oh, yeah, Brad Vickers.
Brad Vickers.
Yeah, so he's a
Right.
guy who's the helicopter pilot
Right.
who sees Joseph get attacked, and then rather than tell everyone get on board,
Yeah,
he just does off.
No, I haven't cast him either. Is what I was going to say.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Well, he pretty much runs off, and then he comes back at the end.
Right.
But depending on what ending you get, obviously, depending on how many people you've saved. So I think Barry can die. I think Rebecca can die, and then either I think it's possible for either Chris or Jill to die or get left behind.
If you play as Jill, you have to save Chris. I think. But you don't have. Well, you don't have to.
Mhm.
You can leave him.
But yeah,
Barry's
I think
always with you though.
I think it's possible that like different a certain amount of people can die, so to get the best ending, you have to pretty much try. and
Because
save
that's
everyone.
what, as well as having more slots to carry things. She always also has Barry sticking up for the whole game. Do you remember
Yes.
when you pick the shotgun off the wall and then sets a trap off, and the next place you go on the roof comes
And
down.
he comes and helps out.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Eventually Barry gets you out, but if you're Chris and you do that, then you just get squished.
Yeah.
Unless you put a fake shotgun on. But that's much later on. It also
Yeah.
stops you getting a shotgun until later in the game because you've got to get the replica to put
I
it in.
think I remember like preferring to choose Jill because obviously you got a bazooka and you got the big saved as like and then
Got a
that shotgun
shotgun
room.
from the
And
beginning.
this is like really early on, both of these things.
Yeah, yeah.
So obviously, as a young kid who wants everything right now, we're going to be like, well, obviously, I'm going to choose Jill. And I want both things.
And don't forget, you also need Barry to be like, Jill, I have a lockpick. I thought I would give it to you, the queen of picking locks. Like, oh, Barry. Then why have you got the lockpick, Barry? Why hasn't she got it?
Barry's got a magnum as well, hasn't he? Which in Resident Evil land is very powerful.
So again, we'll blast through the nobodies. So Joseph Frost, he dies pretty much as they get off the helicopter. He's the young guy. He's got a bandana. So I just picked a guy who had who kind of I thought he looked like him.
Had a bandana.
Frank Delane,
Owns a bandana.
who's Nick Clark from Fear the Walking Dead.
Never even tried it.
I haven't really watched it, but I've seen a bit of it and I know.
He's the guy you see in the adverts, like running in the white shirt. Like that was the big thing.
Long-haired guy.
Yeah. I just picked him, just kill him off straight away.
Yeah.
Plus the irony of being in a zombie thing and then like dying instantly. And then Brad, a real throwaway character. That's
Comes
why I
at the
picked
end,
Zach
yeah.
Braff.
I mean, just
I thought it was funny.
Zach
Zach
Braff.
Braff just like just doing comedy and helicoptering and then being like, "Oh God, I'm out of here," and leaving them open. And be like,
Yeah.
"Oh my God, Zach Braff just left everyone to die." So here's the main one. So Barry,
Barry.
Big Barry.
Baza.
So this is the guy who you all wanted to be, but for some reason weren't allowed to be.
I really struggled with all of these because of them being one-dimensional, and the fact that I loved it that much as a kid, I didn't want to ruin it. You know what I mean?
I've got quite a good one for Barry.
Well,
I think.
so in the Barry doesn't turn up in any of the other games, but he does
Revelations 2
turn up in any of the main games.
and the one on the
Any of the
Game
games
Boy.
that people care about.
And the one on the Game Boy.
But he does turn up in Resident Evil movie 5, I think,
Right.
and he's played by Kevin Durand, who's also the guy who played the Blob in X-Men Origins.
Right.
Right.
Nice
I
one.
think he was in Lost. I think
He
he was
does
a pilot
not
in
fit
Lost.
in with that at all. Like,
And I think he's just doing his own accent and has like a bit of a beard, and that's it. And he has like the red like.
I think you're going to hate mine because you're going to go, you won't be able to do the action scenes, Dave.
So I picked the guy from the sheriff from Stranger Things, David Harbour,
oh, David Harbour?
who's now about to be Hellboy.
Good.
I thought he'd be a good fit.
Yeah, I went with David Harbour as well.
I went much older and grufflier.
Oh, please do.
Brendan Gleeson.
Yes.
Nice.
10
He doesn't have to run, Dan, right?
No,
You
no,
can
I
just
think
come
that's
out
good.
and-
10 years ago, he probably would have got the part.
He works perfectly, man. Like, he's likable enough to do it as well.
Big old beard.
Yeah.
I think it like in reality, I probably would have thought he would probably be on the list. Like Paul Anderson probably would have been like, who are the people who
I
can
mean,
play
you
this
know,
role?
in 28 Days Later when he stands at the top of the stairs in that riot, yeah, he sorts them zombies out, and they're like a different league of zombie, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. They're next level
He
zombies.
doesn't even have a gun, mate. Doesn't even have a magnum.
Yeah. Yeah.
So shall we do Wesker?
Whiskey.
I had two, but I struggled.
I've
It's
got-
so hard.
I've
It
got
is
two
hard.
as well. So again, Wesker in the movies is played by a Canadian actor.
Mm.
I still to this day
I saw it and I hated it.
don't think he's like a star. I think he's just like a guy, like a working actor.
He's such a big character, isn't he? Like,
Which is what's so surprising that they didn't like shell out for a name actor to play the big bad. They just picked and in fact he's played by two different people. In one of them he's played by a guy who I think is in that not is it Hawaii 5-0? I think I think he's in that.
What, like the new one, the remake?
Yeah, but like this was before he was in that TV show, so he was a nobody then, and then he gets replaced by, once he's in that TV show, replaced by this Canadian actor who has done the voice of Batman in one cartoon.
So once this guy actually is in something that people are watching, they think, right, we're going to have someone.
Oh no, he's money. Get this guy.
Yeah,
he looks a bit like him. Put some glasses on him. So yeah, a real shame. So I'll go first because I've went against type, guys. So I went for, my first thought was Michael Fassbender.
Right.
And then I went, well, who would I like to actually see play a villainous role like that? And then I went for Sterling K. Brown, who is the in the Predator trailer, he's the guy who's like, I catch things out of the sky. The black actor.
Yeah, he's good in.
I think him and Michael B. Jordan are some of the best actors working at the minute. And I just thought that, like, in the Predator, he's like a company man who's trying to like help people, but also he's got his own end. I just thought it was kind of a perfect fit.
Yeah.
Plus, any reason to cast him, I would. Plus, every other person in this is white.
Right.
And only two of them. Only.
So you made the villain the black guy.
Well, let's wait till we get to Chris Redfield.
So I mean, it was just because you said that you've got two each. I remembered last week when you mocked us for having two for most of them, so I tried my best to keep it to one, and I did it.
Yeah, but you had like three for every one, right?
Yeah, okay, but I haven't this time. That's what I'm saying. I've got one choice for every one. For this one, I just thought he's even, when before he's like a bad person and stuff. He's just a dodgy character. He's a cool, slick, dodgy character. I went for Johnny Lee Miller.
Oh yeah, that would fit.
Oh.
Sick Boy.
Sick Boy from Trainspotting. And
Sick Boy.
He's also Sherlock in the Elementary TV show. He was in he's been in Dark Shadows. He's been in loads of stuff.
He was
married to Angelina Jolie at one point. Does that help?
Dracula Untold. He was in, wasn't he?
Might have been.
Yeah.
Might have been.
I've only seen him in Trainspotting.
Yeah, you wouldn't know him. You would know him.
But do you remember who he is?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good little actor.
Blonde, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, that's not what it's called. I just think you can do slick and dodgy.
Yeah.
Which I think Sick Boy actually is.
David?
I put a question mark on both of mine, but I'll tell you them. I had Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Negan, or Woody Harrelson.
Oh,
Woody Harrelson.
I would love to see Woody Harrelson would be wicked.
I think Woody Harrelson's the better choice there. Like.
Okay. Jeffrey Dean Morgan's got the look. Woody Harrelson could do that. Probably better.
100%.
And he's brilliant.
Yeah.
Not that Jeffrey Dean Morgan isn't, but
For those Dean Morgan heads out there.
And his hair's already quite fair, so
save a little bit
on dye.
Give him shades, make him bald.
Jill Valentine, our female lead.
I'll go first. Catherine Winnick from Vikings.
Good show.
Oh yeah, cool. Jill Valentine, what we're doing? Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, I missed that there. It was a good choice either way.
Did you think he was casted?
I thought that's what
my
you said.
third choice for Wesker is Catherine Winnick.
I thought that's what you said, but it wasn't 100%. So
I tossed and turned with it for a bit, but that's what I ended up.
Definitely, I did for pretty much all of these. I think I put someone down and then took them out and then put someone else. And I didn't want to add to them because I'd get mocked again.
But I was going to say, you're right. What makes it difficult is that they don't have personalities.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so difficult.
It is.
Like you could the other things that we've done. There's even the Final Fantasy VII, the way they looked gave off at least some idea of who they were. These are just bros,
and they're all police. They're all that special forces team, so it could be fun.
And having said that, I am still quite happy with my choice. I went with Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
I feel like she's more of a Claire Redfield.
Right, okay. Fair enough.
But yeah, for sure, another great actress who you don't really hear from.
Yeah.
If you feel like Chloe Moretz and all them, they had a bit of a moment and then disappeared.
Yeah.
Ever since Scott Pilgrim, I don't think I've.
She was in Fargo series 3.
Oh, that's the last thing I saw. The one I missed.
And the odd, she has been in the odd thing, but not a huge amount.
Sure.
Like
it's good though.
Scott Pilgrim, is the thing that stands out for, and she could have done so much more.
I was going to cast that Saoirse Ronan as Jill because I thought maybe you could make her a bit more younger and innocent now, and then she's got to learn like a coming of age kind of thing as it goes. Not a coming of age thing, but like learn to be brave and whatever.
So in the second, like in the next at the end of the film or the next film, you'd be like, oh, she's a total badass.
I know she doesn't do that kind of movie at the minute, but she did Hannah, didn't she? Which is a bit more that.
Yeah.
But then I took her out and put in just some action last. I didn't. Again, it's hard, isn't it?
Is it hard? Well, I went for Olivia Wilde, who again maybe has the look, but I think she was like maybe the most action she's ever done is Tron, maybe possibly.
Which is pretty.
But yeah, no, just someone who looked right.
Pretty boring game to cast, really, isn't it? When you think about it.
But it's also an interesting one because there's a lot of story. There's a lot of.
It's an interesting game to talk about, but not necessarily to cast.
It's interesting to be like how much we all love it, and then we're like. But then we're still able to be like, well, actually, every single character is absolutely rubbish, and the story doesn't make any sense. But other than that, it's wicked. Which I feel is every game we've ever talked about. Really.
Yeah,
maybe that's what they thought when they were writing the movie. When God, these characters are terrible. But then they just thought, well, we'll make something crap up. But I mean,
they just stick the name.
Even
on
if the characters are a bit one-dimensional and you're stuck to that story, it would still be
exactly.
great.
You can still keep the same story. You don't have to like go that far from it. Just give them a little bit more of a personality. Add some humour in there.
You don't have to have a really fleshed out character to be afraid with them in a kind of.
Well, we'll discuss this after the final casting because there's a little bit of news about Resident Evil. So I'll go first with Chris because he's not going to like it. I went for my first thought was I want him to have an attitude. I want him to be a cool. I want him to not be just like a soldier. I want him to be a cool guy. So I went for Donald Glover.
Oh yeah.
And then I went, okay.
I love Donald Glover.
It's great.
If I'm going to cast someone for their race, I went with the guy who played Solo, Alden Ehrenreich.
Right.
Again, just so he had something a bit more about him. Then he's not just I'm really muscly and I'm really like and I'm a guy.
Your film's a lot more interesting than mine, like.
Yeah.
But I just thought like Donald Glover would be like, how cool would that be if he had all the garb? But then he's like he can be funny, he can be terrified, he can be sad, he can be happy. Maybe not happy. It doesn't happen very often in Resident Evil. But like it just fleshes out the character so much just by having him involved because he's really more of a. He's not just going to give you a single straight performance. He's going to be like, well, I think my character would act this way. Like I think my Chris would do this. And I think that's just bringing that to it would really help flesh it out. Yeah. And again, like, how on board would you be if you were like, oh, there's a new Resident Evil film coming out? Oh, it's Donald Glover. Oh, no bother.
Sweet.
I don't need to know the story. I don't need to know who else is in it. I don't need to know who's directing.
I'm already
in.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? Didn't Wentworth Miller play him in the actual movies?
Yes.
The guy from Prison Break.
Wentworth Miller. Yes.
Oh
yeah. But they cast him as if he was that kind of brawling soldier type. He's not that character.
It sounded whatever. When I saw it, I was like, so you've put Chris Redfield in a little prison, and then you've cast a guy from Prison Break. It felt like it was a joke. Yeah. It felt like they went, no. Don't forget that he's the main character of however many films. We've got a great prison joke.
So was Prison Break out at this point?
I think it had just finished.
Right.
I know Chris is like a one-dimensional kind of archetype soldier, but I do like the character in the games. I do like to play as him because he is a bit of a he's a beast, isn't he?
He's a good hero.
Yeah, he is. So I kept him just like that.
I did as well.
There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
I kept. I mean, this is the one casting I've done where I've kept with the boring, no personality kind of theme in the way that he's just like a sort of muscly guy, Hollywood. I went actually for the. I think I don't think it was completely on purpose, but I went for the more boring brother, and I went for Liam Hemsworth. I haven't even went for the most interesting brother.
But that would fit. That would fit perfectly.
Liam Hemsworth.
And if that's the movie that you can make with those actors and still keep it scary and still keep it action,
just the one that I can picture in my head,
that's fine.
That's it. Like.
And that's great.
Well, I went for looks definitely boring, massive.
It's Henry Cavill.
I mean, he would be good for it. Come on.
I've got a sneaky suspicion.
That's great deduction.
That if we're ever really successful, one of us are going to get punched by Henry Cavill. We're going to stumble across him at a premiere, and he's going to be like,
I think he would actually be good for that role.
Yeah, no, I
fair,
think so as well. Yeah.
I mean, it's not a compliment, I suppose, but
he'd be fine.
Actually, what I had him straight away. I went, no,
actually, forget it. I'm going for The Rock. I'm putting Dwayne Johnson in there.
He fits more somehow. So Resident Evil is getting rebooted already. James Wan is on board as the producer.
No way.
To guide a new Resident Evil franchise.
How much do we know about the story? Is it going to be Resident Evil?
We don't know, and there's no writers, there's no nothing. As far as I'm aware, at this point, it's the planning stage of... They've effectively went, here's all the games, James. What would you do?
James.
And then he's going to probably...
I feel like he'll simplify it.
Yeah, probably do a timeline and be like, well, if you're going to do the first game, you'd probably do this, and you'd have these characters. But the fact that they're picking James Wan gives me credence that they're going to be... Even if they end up being like The Nun, or an Annabelle, at least that's still going to be more atmospheric and scary than anything Anderson's done,
and loyal to the games a bit more.
So even that is a huge step forward. Even if the films don't end up being that much better, or at least it's you tried.
As long as they don't kick dogs and things, backflips and.
So I just thought it's interesting that it finished last year, the year before, so it's been finished 12-18 months. And they've already found the guy who's the number one horror film director in Hollywood and went, how would you do this properly?
And he's on board.
Nice.
So you never know. So it might see something a bit more like this Resident Evil 2 remake where it's all about torches and not being able to see things. And I really liked the whole, because obviously it was a static camera. And I liked the whole thing where it would make you not be able to see certain things.
Yeah.
And then the lightning would flash and someone would go past a shadow and you would turn around and there'd be nothing there. I like all of that. I like all the kind of 50s Hammer horror setting, which was just thrown away.
In the mansion, it was tight corridors, little rooms, close quarters all the time, which goes much more with a horror movie than anything that they've done. So if he does that kind of thing, like sneaking around, even if it's not hordes and hordes and loads of zombies, but if they're just in a kind of house, or big facility or whatever, and it's that kind of avoiding being caught or being found.
No web. I've got 15 bullets. They're all gone. What am I going to do now?
Keep one for me.
Yeah. keep 2 bullets. I'm going to shoot you and I'm going to shoot myself. But I just think it's a good step forward. No idea when it'll come along. Probably wouldn't be too long. I wouldn't have thought, seeing as the other ones were so successful. More than $1 billion. So. But James Wan's a busy guy. He's busy saving the Warner Brothers universe, and he's got Conjuring still, and all the other Conjuring spin-offs. So, it'll be exciting. So that is Resident Evil 0 and 1 sorted. I think it's fair to say that any sort of movie is more predicated on the talent behind the camera as opposed to the talent in front of it. For us,
I don't know. Honestly, like I say, I feel like you'd need the talent there.
Yeah,
you'd
I
still
think
need
you would have to.
Something.
You would have to change the character a bit. I think.
Not just create
exactly how you used to have been trying to cast it.
Not just create a new one and make it the director's wife. So, is there anything before we wrap up really quickly? Is there anything that you guys want to do next week for?
I haven't thought about it, mate. Really, I haven't seen the list.
It would, it would naturally. You'd think Resident Evil 2, but I don't think we should do that.
Resident Evil 2 will be January because that's when the next game comes out. October, mid-month in October, we've got Red Dead 2, so we'll do Red Dead 1 then. It's October, so the month of October we'll be doing only horror games,
right? And
then we'll culminate in a Halloween spooktacular. Halloween, we'll just
spooktacular,
and I'll kind of let you guys know about that in due process.
Do you just tell what you want me to do, Dan? We'll do.
Yeah, I mean, do we need to do any more remakes, or is this the only 2 that we needed to do, which are in Resident Evil?
No, that's it. That's it.
Okay.
They only redid this one because Dave wasn't on that one. Dave's been on everyone since then.
And it wasn't on Tomb Raider.
That's true, but there's not really. You can only. What I'm going to do is, again, I might do a special that's like video games that only have one real character to cast. So for argument's sake, Tomb Raider, Hitman, games like that, where it's like we should really talk about them. We'll talk probably more about the games, and then just be like, who would you cast as this one person? Yeah, you couldn't really talk about. You could talk about Hitman for 2 hours, but you'd just be talking about the games. There's only one person to cast. And that's obviously
we'll do
Timothy
that as
Oliphant.
the bonfire night special or something like that.
Yeah, probably not. Probably won't record that night with all the fireworks going off open the window. But I want to do something I want to do something newer because we've done a lot of retro stuff. I want to do something new. I don't know. Maybe I was thinking maybe even something that maybe was not all fans of, but would probably a lot of people might be interested in. Like Call of Duty, because obviously that's a movie that's currently happening. But again, I don't know. I'll have a look through the list and see what we think. But yeah, October, all horror films except for Red Dead, Spooktacular, and then November we'll do Back to Normal, and then in December, games that take place at Christmas.
Oh.
You've planned it. You've planned it.
Then we'll get to January, we'll do Resident Evil 2, and then we'll get round to our...
I like it. I'm on board.
1 year anniversary.
Absolutely, man.
Can't be as hard as this week.
You've planned it out well. I'll completely trust you with your next choice.
Fantastic. Right, okay, well that's lovely. That's I think again we've like we do every episode. I think we're going to be quicker, and every episode we're a little bit longer.
Okay.
So this is another one that's brought the 2 hours.
On this one, you don't need to ask the question: is it going to be done? Because
no, it's happening.
we know that it's happening.
It's happening.
I'll try and play more games this week. I'm probably only going to watch Vietnam though.
That's fine.
I'm busy again working on.
Can you play a game that's set in Vietnam? Perhaps.
Like.
I think Call of Duty Black Ops is set in Vietnam.
It was decent, I think.
Yeah.
But okay, that's it. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Ta-ta.
Thank you for listening to Grand Pitch Thought So. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to check out our other castings on games like The Last of Us, Silent Hill, and Resident Evil. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast on iTunes, Podbean, or wherever it is you download your podcasts from. And feel free to get in touch with us on Instagram and Twitter at GPTSPod and on Facebook at Grand Pitch Thought So. This podcast is produced and edited by Dan Hewitt. Grand Pitch Thought So is not affiliated with the motion pictures or video games reviewed or mentioned in any of the episodes. All movie clips and music used in this podcast are the intellectual property of the respective copyright holders, and they are included here for the purpose of review, and no infringement is intended.